final day of preliminaries in the Charity Cup. 8 players will leave us and 8 will make it through to the knockout stage. 5 players are fighting for 2 spots in the quarterfinals. And David Ivanka, are you ready to comment on the drama?
Yes!
Welcome to the Charity Cup.
Wow, what has just happened there?
Whoa!
He's completely hallucinated against the action.
Whoa! Look at the bar!
Checkmate is just coming.
What a game! Wow.
There's no way to stop it. Plus 100 for black.
He's taking
Whoa!
it.
He's done it!
Oh, behind of the computer, Magnus.
Yeah.
Rook is under fire. 2 seconds again by Eric. Oh, he made the move.
Why doesn't it work?
Because what
Rook takes bishop. Rook takes bishop. Play quickly.
Magnus Carlsen showing his genius in this final.
Incredible day, Chess.
Everybody, to the final day of preliminaries here in the Charity Cup. By the end of today, 8 players will have to leave the tournament, and 8 players will be very happy to have made it through to the knockout stage and quarterfinals. And to guide us through a very, very intense day of chess, as always, International Master Jan-Krzysztof and Grandmaster David Howell. And now, David, who will you be eager to follow today?
I'm eager to follow 16-year-old Pragnananda. He's been one of the stars of this season's tour so far. But in order to make it through now, he needs to win some games. He's just outside of the qualifications spots, and I'm excited to see how he does under the pressure.
Definitely. And of course, Ivanka, the number 1 spot is actually not decided either. And what's your expectation for that one?
Oh, it's going to be a close call because it's between Liam Lair, who's been having the tournament of his life, and Magnus Carlsen, who's in 2nd place. And Magnus is just 1 victory away from stealing that spot from Liam. And to make it better, they are playing each other in game 13, so Magnus has his chances.
Definitely. Now, yesterday, Jordan van Foreest was the man on fire. While Magnus Carlsen, he started the day against the 16-year-old who became historical when he beat Magnus Carlsen in the Air Things Masters.
Both kings under heavy fire. This one is really heating up. The evaluation bar going in Magnus's favour. I think it's purely because White's king now slightly more vulnerable.
And things are just really going from bad to worse, I think, for Pragnananda.
Okay, he backs that bishop up with his pawn. I think he could have moved that bishop maybe safely, but okay, we see a check now on the diagonal. And
whoa!
Yeah, again, the White king just in too much trouble. Even more brutal. Magnus is going to take some pawns first. Next move, the black bishop's going to retreat with a deadly check, and there we go. We have a result. Pragnananda giving up.
But this is brave stuff. I mean,
Talking
is he
of
going to
bold.
continue, or is he...
Talking of bold, White has just sacrificed a piece. White's bishop now can just be captured by a pawn. Also, the attack continues. Black's king is never going to be safe. So, material advantage incoming for Van Foreest, and checkmate possibly on the board. I think that's the killer blow, and David Navarra leans back. Now, the black knight, if it captures the white pawn, the white queen will just slide back 1 square, and it's a double attack. That's a check. The black knight will fall.
The game between Jordan van Foreest and David Navarra ended with a win for Jordan van Foreest.
I think it's very one-sided. I'm surprised the evaluation bar is actually only 1.5, because it feels like the type of position that could just fall apart if White is careless in just 1 move. And wow.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, just...
Why is that so nice?
He's ending the game.
I'm not seeing it.
He's threatening checkmate in 1 move. The black rook is just going to come behind the white king now, deliver the kiss of death, and that's checkmate. The white king's caught in a mating net. So he's just abandoned the white pawn. He's just forgetting about the white bishop. Checkmate is coming in the next few moves. The black rook sliding across. Really nice finish there from Duda, and Neiman resigns.
Honestly speaking, I haven't been tilted in a while in the way I was today. So, yeah, very good to end on positive score. Yeah, did everything in my power to to change the course.
Jan-Krzysztof Duda was able to finish on a high after losing the 3 first games yesterday. He is in 5th place, the same score as Richard Report. Neither feeling 100% safe to qualify for knockouts. Vedic and Hans Niemeyer are in 7th and 8th place. And then chasing from behind, 16-year-old Pragnananda and our 2 Davids. And these are the players that will be caught up in the drama today. So, David, what is it about for these players with only 3 rounds to go?
It's all about those 3 points, those wins. So they will be needing to take risks, especially Pragnananda and the two Davids there. And for the players, maybe 6th, 7th, 8th place, they'll be looking over their shoulders. They will know that a draw might be okay, but they'll be looking at other results as well. It's just about holding their nerves and ideally playing for those wins.
Absolutely. Remember, 3 points for a win, only 1 for a draw, and of course 0 for a loss. And if we take a look again at the standings, ding. And especially Jordan van Forest both had great results yesterday. It's looking very good for them to qualify. And all the way on top of the table, Liam Le, and then 3 points behind him, Magnus Carlsen. And who do you think, Jovanka, will take that #1 spot? Who we know that is an important position to have when we head to knockouts.
Yeah, it definitely is an important position because you get to choose what colour you'll begin with, what colour you will have in the tie breaks. It's a really tough question, but I think Magnus might do it, but I actually am privately cheering for Liam because he's had the tournament of his life so far, and he really does seem like a man on form.
But it is something about Magnus, David, right? When he has something to really play for, that's when he really thrives.
Yeah, it's all about those crunch games, those big moments. Maybe it's because he's so experienced with them, having played all these World Championship matches now. But yeah, when the chips are down, when he really needs to win, he tends to do that. And yeah, against Liam, he would love to kind of overtake him and show that he is the boss.
And not only talking about chess today, of course, we are keeping up our fundraiser for UNICEF and the very important job that they are doing for the people in and around Ukraine. 1.5 million children have become refugees. They are in great danger and need protection and help. We have been calling on the chess community to come together to help the children and people of Ukraine. And so far, more than $60,000 have been raised, you guys. That is fantastic. And we have now upped our goal, still many days to go in the tournament. We want to raise as much money as possible for UNICEF. And if people want to contribute, Jovanka, how do they do that?
Yeah, you have to go onto the webpage chess24.com/donate. Or alternatively, you can get your phone out and you can scan or take a picture of the QR code and it will take you to the website. And please remember, every little will help the people of Ukraine.
And another way to participate in the fundraiser is to join our charity auction. And today we're going to focus on something very helpful and very cool, a chess lesson with our very own Grandmaster, David Howell. You're being so kind in these auctions, David.
Yeah, anything for a good cause, and obviously so much we can do in Ukraine. So yeah, 1 hour lesson with me. That can involve asking me chess questions, discussing anything about chess, showing me games, and yeah, hopefully it will be really helpful, really enjoyable. And yeah, I'm hoping there will be some bids.
And well, it's already super popular. So the current bid is on $350. You might have to be quick here to get your hand on that chess lesson with David Howell, cctauction.com, to make your bid on that chess lesson. And of course, we also want to hear from our great viewers around the world, Jovanka.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be a nail-biter of a day today. And we want you at home to be very much part of the action. And you can send us your questions, your thoughts, even better, your selfies. Remember to take them in landscape mode. And you can do all this by tweeting us using the hashtag ChessChamps.
Absolutely. Join in, everyone. There is a total of 3 rounds left to play in the preliminaries. We're going to start out following the game between the two players fighting for that #1 spot, Liam Le and Magnus Carlsen. And after that game, we're going to launch the next Play Magnus Charity Challenge with Norwegian TV host and UNICEF ambassador Leo Ajkic. That should be a very cool challenge to follow. And throughout the day, we're also going to be joined by our stats oracle, Ty Prus Zimmerman, joining us from the US. Nice to see you again, Ty.
You too.
And for viewers who maybe didn't follow in the Air Things Masters, tell us, where did your love for numbers and stats and odds, where did that come from?
I don't know who to blame for it. I've just loved it my whole life. It's always been fascination.
And you're going to be sitting there the whole day with your spreadsheets, calculating everything. And how intense and how tight would you say it is before this final day of prelims?
We've got 5 people who are really, really neck and neck for the final 2 qualifying spots right now. So that could resolve itself in rounds 13, 14, or it could all come down to the very end, and we'll see.
Absolutely. And we see, for example, both Vedic and Hans Niemann on 18 points, but Vedic has a much higher percentage of making it through the knockout. So what lies behind these numbers?
So these predict the results of the upcoming games. So the difference between 2 people on 18 points is, one, Vedic is higher rated, and then also you factor in the pairings, and Vedic just has a little bit better chance to land on the right side of that line.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know in the Air Things Masters, the cut went on 21 points. What would you say is likely today?
It's 55% that 21 points will be enough this time. But there's also a number of scenarios where it takes 22.
Okay. And I know a lot of fans, especially on the American continent, they're hoping that Erik Hansen will make it through. Are there chances for him to be able to do that?
It is mathematically possible, 0.7% according to the model. But if he wins all 3 of his games, that would get him to 21. And like I just said, that's around a 50-50 chance of being enough.
Yeah. And then, of course, 16-year-old Pragnananda. It would be just a huge story if he makes it to the knockout stage. Do you think it's likely?
I think it's a lot more likely if he beats Niemann in the first game today. 2 people on the cut line playing each other is always critical. So that game will tell us a whole lot about both of their chances.
All right. Ty, thanks for joining us. We're going to check in with you later as well to get an update.
See you then.
See ya. All right. Well, round 13 is coming up, and here are the games coming up, and especially, David, Pragnananda against Niemann. That's going to be interesting.
This one is interesting. It's a 16-year-old Prag against an 18-year-old Hans Niemann, and we might see this battle in world chess for years to come. But it's most important, of course, for the standings. A win there important for Prag. But the game we will focus on, though, Liam against Carlsen.
Of course, because it's going to be super interesting to see who will clinch that #1 spot in the preliminaries. And it's going to be an interesting battle between these two. Knowing Magnus, Askild, how hungry will he be for a victory in this particular game?
I mean, Magnus loves to win chess games. He loves to be #1. And he has a good score against Liam Le, so I think he wants to keep that score as well, and also fight for some more rating points on the tour.
Yeah, Magnus has lost 4 rating points. Look at Liam Le, 44 points up, but more impressively, Jordan van Vore is 67.
Yeah, I mean, both of them have had a great tournament so far, and actually we could see another player break through to the 2800 mark.
Wow.
And I just want to mention, Magnus has a plus score of 5. He's won 5 more games than he lost, and he's still down 4 rating points. That just shows us how difficult it is to maintain a high tour rating.
Interesting. And now the 2 players that will face each other, Magnus and Liam, they have played in the tour and faced each other many times, and these are the head-to-head scores.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Liam Le towards the end of last season. He played some fantastic chess, and he's probably been the best player in the prelim so far. But as we can see, he has never beaten Magnus on the tour so far. But he's in great form, and with the white pieces today, maybe that's his chance.
Fantastic. This is going to be an interesting game, as always. This is online rapid chess, 15 minutes on the clock and 10 seconds increment after every single move. Liam will have the white pieces in this game, David, and how important will that be?
I think the white pieces will play a big role in this game. We saw there the head-to-head scores. Liam tending to suffer with the black pieces against Magnus, getting knocked out by him last month of the Air Things Masters. And with white, actually with black as well, Liam has been quite impressive throughout this tournament. So Magnus, however, maybe a bit more shaky with the black pieces. His opening repertoire there, strong, but often starting off on the back foot.
Yeah, one thing I'm really hoping to see is that Liam Le plays a London system. Now, the reason I'm saying London system is because he did a chessable course on it. And I love it when authors play their own recommendations.
Yeah, I know. Then we can sort of follow it a little bit closer. We know what they're thinking. All right.
The only thing is maybe Magnus has checked out that chessable course.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe Magnus is expecting Liam to play that. So it'll be really interesting kind of what avenue he chooses, what opening move. Liam, okay, he has started with 1d4, and if white brings out his dark square bishop on the next move, or the next two moves, we would have seen a London system, but no, that's not going to happen. Wow, we see the King's Indian defense. Not something we usually see from Magnus these days. Look at this, white occupying the center with a lot of pawns. Black is just going to play on his first 3 ranks for the next, well, for the foreseeable future. And okay, Magnus, it's not usually his style, but he did have some success with this opening last summer during the World Cup and some other events. And okay, this little pawn push is one of the most fashionable lines of the King's Indian, and Magnus just looking out the window there, looking off to the right. He's just trying to pick an opening, pick maybe which black pawn to push. You need to challenge white's center before it's too late, before white just gets everything, gets a dream position, and there we go. The center actually blocks itself up. So no trades in the middle of the board. That would only have helped black, because the white king is in the center, and white's king being in the center isn't such an issue now that things are blocked up in the middle.
And just checking the database, I can see that this particular little pawn push that Lei made very quickly is actually his specialty. He plays it very regularly. And
going on the attack with the white pawns. Look at white's pawns in the center and on the right side of the board, all on light squares. And you talked about clamps, Jovanka. He now, Liam, is trying to clamp down and stop black from breaking out. And this knight retreat, I'm just trying to think. Actually, Gawain Jones recently released a chessable course on the black side of the King's Indian, and I think this position, or something very similar at least, features in that chessable course. So maybe Magnus has been checking out what Gawain Jones, one of the world's leading experts on the King's Indian, has recommended. Really interesting play. Note how white's rook actually stepped to the side, lining itself up with the black king, so white cannot castle anymore on the right side of the board. He wouldn't have done that anyway. It's too exposed over there. And Magnus just kind of rerouting his knights for now. This one, all pieces on the board, and they will be for a long time. It's going to be very tense.
Definitely. And what I like about this is by Magnus choosing this particular opening, it means he's ambitious. He wants that fight. Having said that, he has kind of walked into something that Liam actually knows really well. I mean, I'm looking here and I'm seeing that there are 3 games by him on the database. He's the highest rated person to have played this particular variation. So it's something that he believes in. And I love it when players do this, because it means that us as chess players can actually copy what he's doing.
Wow, and Harry the H-pawn marching up the board.
And sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, so far, he's actually following a game that he won against the Indian Grandmaster Harika Dronavali in 2021. So Liam has good memories of this variation. It was a blitz game, though, that he won.
Do you think Magnus will be aware of that game?
Magnus has a great memory, and he plays through... I mean, he always, every time I see him, even out at restaurants, he's always on the Chess24 app playing through games from that day, live games, games from all over the world. So even a blitz game he might be aware of.
It's insane.
I can't guarantee it, but it's quite possible.
Wow.
I think we'll find out by how quickly or how slowly Magnus starts to play over the next few moves. But just to highlight, okay, he does play quickly, so he's at least aware of this kind of pattern, if not the exact position. And the idea behind white's pawn pushes is pretty simple. On this right side of the board, those white pawns are just going to push towards the black king, maybe open up lines. At the very least, black will lose a lot of flexibility. And black will have to maybe keep his gaze focused on this king side once the white pawns start pushing. But Magnus, for now, undermining the white center. This makes a lot of sense. If your opponent has a bit more space, as white does here, if you look at the white d5 pawn, very far advanced, it's just kind of cutting the board in half, then, yeah, you have to undermine your opponent's strongholds. And, OK, very tense. We won't see a trade of pawns from white side. White will never capture this black pawn that's just moved, because that would only remove white's strongest point, but also help black to break out. The trades in this position would only favour black. And there we go, consistent, pushing Harry even further up the board. And look at the black king, already feeling a bit shaky. And Liam just ignoring the queen side, ignoring the centre for now, just playing with a one-track mind, pushing pawns towards the black king.
And, well, Liam is still in familiar territory here. He hasn't been surprised. He's following a game. This time they've kind of moved from his game against Harika, and it's now a blitz game that he played against Luis Supi, Brazilian grandmaster. Okay. And actually, it's quite interesting because in that particular game, he lost.
Oh.
So, you know, Magnus, I think, has definitely steered the game into this particular variation. He's kind of predicted what's going to happen, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Magnus has up his sleeve.
Yeah, and this is the type of position where white at the moment has control. If you look at all of white's pawns, they control squares, they defend each other, but your piece development is not great. White's king is still in the centre, white's light squared bishop at home, white's rook's still far away from being connected. So if white loses that control, if black is able to break out with his pieces, explode open the centre of the board, then everything will be in black's favour. So it's very much white trying to keep control, and we'll see that from the next 5-10 moves from Liam. Black will be trying to create chaos, because I think partly Magnus will like that. Liam is a kind of control type of player, but also this type of position with the white king in the centre. If white does just blink for one moment and allow things to open up, yeah, the king will be stranded. So, yeah, I mean, what an exciting start to the game. Neither player playing it solid, playing it safe. And I would have thought Liam with the white pieces, being the leader of the prelims, a draw would be fine for him, but he's gone really aggressive with this opening choice.
Oh, we love it. And yeah, remember, if Magnus Carlsen wins this game, gaining 3 points, they will be tied on points. A draw for Liam would mean that he's still leading by 3 points. So impressive by Liam to go for a real fight in this game. That's what we love to see.
Yeah, he knows no fear. We often talk about the young players being the fearless ones, making big, brave decisions. But Liam, the reason he's at the top of the leaderboard is because this whole tournament, he's taken risks. He's shown no respect to players like Ding, players like Rapport.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of these guys in the field, he's just been beating most of them. So
he's playing some fantastic chess as well. You know, there's been quite a few sacrifices, really wild chaos as well on the boards. So, I mean, it's been a pleasure to see him playing like this. And, well, Magnus here actually not choosing the main line, developing the light squared bishop, instead of capturing in the centre, which has traditionally been a more popular move.
Yeah, very logical, though, developing a piece. There can't be anything really wrong with black's move. And again, it comes down to white. How is white going to improve the pieces? I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe white's light squared bishop just take one square, just kind of develop itself off the back rank. The white queen could move, white's kingside knight, the one on the right side, could just step back. Yeah. These are all typical ideas. One thing you don't want to see for white, and just we were talking about control here, one thing Liam shouldn't do now that he's thinking is trade off pawns. So a couple of pawn trades are available to white. You don't want to open things up.
Okay.
Yeah,
you have to keep things closed because black is cramped.
Liam Le, he is from Vietnam, but he lives in the US, and he is actually a teacher, a chess teacher, right, for at a university.
Webster University.
Wow. Full-time job, and still being able to compete at the highest level in chess. Super impressive.
And Liam actually playing one of the moves that you suggested, retreating the knight, and just solidifying the centre, because as David mentioned, it's all about control. Now that white has maximised the pawn side expansion there on the right side, he's just all about, OK, well, now let me just reinforce the centre, let me live with this extra space and just wait for black to break out.
Yeah, and talking of breaking out, for King's Indian players at home, and I know it's very popular at the club level, amateur level, this type of position is quite typical, but black's normal pawn break is to actually pick up the f-pawn and push it forward 2 squares. Black's f-pawn in front of the rook, just throw that forward, open things up, go for the white king. But here it's not possible because white's rook on the g-file is staring down at the black king. So basically that's the problem for black. It's frustrating, this type of position. You can't open things up. And also, it's not your typical conventional King's Indian ideas. And that's why I think this line is so popular for white, because black King's Indian players, they know one pattern and they stick to it and it brings them success. But here, they're not allowed to go for their favorite idea, their favorite concept. So, okay, meanwhile, Magnus, he's just reacted to the push of white's h-pawn by pushing his own a-pawn forward. And black trying to use this pawn that's just moved as maybe a bit of an annoyance for white. Just trying to destabilize white over here on the left side, also creating a square for the black queen to jump out to. And Liam says no more pawn advances. White just blocking things up again, trying to keep control. And yeah, Liam, we mentioned Webster University. He now occupies the job that Susan Polgar used to kind of have at Webster University, and he has some really strong, I say students, but some of them are 2600 level. So obviously they work together, and I think that really helps his game. So he might be the teacher, he might be in charge, but he's definitely picking up ideas from these young university students who are hungry, really hardworking.
Are there some up-and-coming that the chess world is sort of keeping an eye on?
Well, this is the whole point of the Webster University and other university scholarship programs. You know, they pick stars that they think are going to be rising, they're going to be the best ones in the world. And so what they do is they invite them to the university, and then you have the chess teachers training them. And it's kind of really like a hive mind there. Everyone is working together, studying together. They have access to the best computer technology as well.
Like AI?
Yeah, but not the AI. Well, not necessarily AI, but just they have very strong engines and strong processors and things. So it is really very much a kind of a community spirit. So it's like David said, it's not really surprising that Liam is doing so well. And in my mind, I've idolized everything. I've kind of like they get together after the games and like, hey coach, you could have played this and this and this. Hey, we got this great idea coming up. Whether it happens like that, I don't know. But in my mind,
it's like a fraternity or a sorority in college, and they have these college parties and chess. Oh, I want to live that life.
Yeah, I mean, they've had students, actually Liam himself, they've had Ray Robson, an American grandmaster, they've had Ilya Nizhnik, Peruvian's top grandmaster, also there. So, yeah, it's impressive what's going on in St. Louis right now with the universities. They're recruiting all the top players, all the top young players of the world. And meanwhile, just a couple of moves on the position. We did see our first pawn trade. So it took 15, 16 moves, but we did see a capture in the centre. And I was slightly surprised to see Liam take with his knight, and white's knight in the middle of the board now, parked in the centre, being undermined by Magnus. So Magnus is going to try and open things up, as we mentioned. It's that fight of control. Magnus trying to undermine white in the middle of the board, white just trying to lock things down. And I am slightly concerned for the white king.
Yeah.
If things do open up.
I just wanted to point out that David was surprised about the knight capturing the pawn in the middle, and that is with good reason, because before, white had only really captured with the c-pawn. So now the players are on totally new ground, and they're on their own, and it's up to who will be playing the most accurate here, because now the price of every move is going to matter significantly. If white does a misstep, then it means that the initiative will be on black's side. If black also maybe mistimes a pawn break, then the position will open up in white's favour. So incredibly sharp position and incredibly exciting. And also, I have to show you a few selfies, because I love it when everyone gets involved in the actions and shares us how they're watching the show. And Benjamin says, chess and cartoons.
Oh, nice.
And Abhishek Lai says, this 5-year-old constantly complains that his dad watches this chess show instead of playing with him. Oh.
Well, play chess while you watch, you guys.
Exactly.
And then you can have names on the pieces and,
Multitasking is hard, though, watching and playing at the same time.
No, you can follow the games. You can go old school. This is how... I don't know whether I should say this. When I was a kid and I was following chess... a long time ago, we would also have the board and we would follow the moves as they happened, and we would try to kind of, as a family, try to figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
It's a nice family activity.
it was a really nice family activity, and we also used to do it via teletext.
I also remember teletext, Ivanka. Don't worry.
One for another generation.
Yes.
All right. Well, this game, David, who would you say is like the star players in each camp here?
Yeah, I was going to say White's knight in the centre of the board was a star player, but it was about to get traded off by one of Black's knights.
Oh, look at the bar here.
Yeah, it's taken a step back, but to me, that just looks like a loss of time. And there we go. Black's knights are the ones starting to creep forward. This knight now is going to jump into the d4 square. There are some holes in White's camp. And, OK, Liam really trying to clamp down and continuing to push pawns. It's still the type of position that, OK, let's not pay too much attention to the evaluation bar yet. But if White is careless, and it does feel like Liam's playing a bit too slowly in terms of piece development, then, yeah, things could really turn against them. And look at this. Black's knights are now the star players. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, Kaja, you mentioned star pieces. These
People could be asking, why can White just not play bishop takes knight? Get rid of the problem piece. After all, it's something that I advocate on a regular basis. However, if you do that, you get rid of the sole defender of the dark squares, and you give Black on a plate every single dark square there is on the board, and you unleash this bishop that is sitting there currently looking at his own pawn. So, no, that knight in the middle of the board, totally taboo. Liam is going to have to maneuver like crazy, and that is not the move that you want to play either. And
Why is that a move?
Because now White can never, ever castle on the left side of the board either. You've moved both rooks, and once you've moved rooks, you lose your castling rights. So White's king now is destined to stay in the centre forever. I would have preferred to keep the rook in the corner, just to hint later on at least that you're going to castle, even if it's not safe. At least Magnus will have to worry about the king kind of running away, evacuating itself. But now Magnus is 100% sure the White king is going to be fixed in the middle of the board, and therefore it's an easy target. If you know where your opponent's king is going to lie, you can attack it, especially in the centre. Yes, it should be quite easy. And I could imagine Magnus now just throwing some pawns forward, even at the cost of pawns, just to open up lines towards this White king. Black's king, for now, super safe. The formation around it is blocked. And, yeah, I mean, this White rook, especially the one that's just moved, what is it even doing there? I understand maybe it was going to get attacked by some of Black's knights, but it's on a sad, sad square.
When Magnus leaning forwards, he is definitely liking this. The bar is saying 2.5 advantage for the world champion. And in the very critical game for qualification between Pragnananda and Niemann, I can see the bar is over to the 16-year-old's side. If he wins that game, then he will go into top 8 for now. And Hans Niemann will be outside of top 8. All right, critical game.
Just took a peek over. It looks good for Prag, but still far, far from a result.
I'm actually surprised by Magnus's last move. I felt that Liam's small rook move actually should have been a kind of a sign for aggressive action. I was expecting a pawn break or maybe improving the queen.
Bart didn't like it.
Yeah, the bar didn't like it, and right now, OK, after this rook move, at least White has ideas. At least White maybe will bring the bishop out to the side and start trading some stuff off. Maybe one idea for Liam will be actually to castle, but doing it by hand, as we say. So, for example, if Black's rook moves across, the White bishop might move, and then the king might just scoot over and run away to safety. This is really unconventional. Definitely don't try this one at home. But it looks like Liam has been given the time, possibly, to get his king safe. And Ivanka, you said you were surprised by Black's moves. You thought maybe there was something quicker.
Yeah, it was, the first move that kind of sprang to mind was actually just a break in the that's the move.
This is the most typical move for a King's Indian player. Their dream, as you mentioned, Ivanka, is to push this f-pawn forward, to open up the rook, to either dislodge the White bishop or just to capture in the centre with a pawn and open up some lines. And maybe Magnus missed this idea, at least the one opportunity for this idea to happen, because yes, White can play en passant, but at least now the queen would come out and suddenly some danger. But if we catch up with the game, Black instead brought the rook to the central square, and after White's rook lifted, Magnus just playing positionally. Maybe he missed a chance to go on the attack, and it's a stylistic thing. Magnus typically is a strategist. He wants to just improve his pieces. We talk about how he likes to bring everyone to the party. He has improved his bishop, he has improved his rook, but maybe he missed a direct opportunity to just blow open the middle of the board and go for this white king in the center. And now I think Liam has to find this idea. I think if he doesn't find it, he's going to be toast. I think he needs to just bring his bishop out somewhere and then just shuffle his king to a safer square. You definitely don't want your king opposite a black rook for too long, because the position will eventually open. And the other point Jovanka made earlier, okay, he doesn't go for this.
He doesn't.
Wow.
I wonder whether he's got very ambitious intentions, shall we say. Optimistic, maybe, is a better word. He's thinking, maybe the rook, maybe the queen can move a bit to the side, the H line, and do something there. Maybe at the right time.
Yeah, maybe you just, for example, if I give black a couple of moves, the white queen might slide across, and then the white rook might slide across, and after a trade of pawns, you might try and sneak in with the white queen and rook here, but it's a pipe dream. It will never happen. And even if this does happen, even if black gives you plenty of moves, this is never, ever checkmate with the bishop on this square. The white queen has just wasted 5 or 6 moves. So I don't think Liam is really going for checkmate. What is his idea, though? That is the question. And Magnus just improving his other knight. I think Liam, again, sooner or later, he's going to have to bring his king, move the bishop, and just bring the king across. Another idea, maybe planting the knight back in the centre of the board at some point. You do have to be careful, however, of black jumping in, for example, with a knight check at the wrong moment, because this would be a check, and maybe the bishop could be captured. So still really, really complex. I think Magnus missed, as Jovanka mentioned, that pawn push, which would have been fantastic for him. And we saw the evaluation bar shoot all the way down because black has played a bit slowly. And to show what's happened, okay, it's all about these knights.
And is the Liam star player back in the game? It's a white knight?
Back in the game, but it could be captured at some point. So it's a big question, though, because if black ever does capture, then after white recaptures, black's knights are suddenly going to lose contact with each other. There are threats, and suddenly white, again, has this space advantage, the nice pawns that we talked about earlier in the game. So, yeah, really tense. And in the current position, I still don't know whose position I prefer. And, I hope that continues, because this type of battle where it's kind of going either way, it's in the balance, still actually only one set of pawns traded, and it's move 21. This type of game is always the most exciting.
Yeah, I do have to say I really like black's position. I feel that, okay, Magnus maybe didn't choose the most ambitious option, but he's kind of gone for something very safe, just based on the kind of like visual harmony of black's pieces. They look nice, don't they? The bishop is good,
Yeah, king definitely looks
the pawn
super
structure
safe.
is good. The king, like you say, is super safe.
Especially the black knights.
And look at white's pieces. Clumsy doesn't even begin to describe it. And I mean, there's no point to any of the pieces. So,
well, how about the white queen and the rook behind it? I mean, they are lined up towards the black king.
yeah, they're lined up towards the black king. That is true. But they're looking at the white pawn. And, these powerful weapons, they really do need open lines because that's the most effective use of them. If they're just staring at their own pawn, the pawn is just in the way. So there's no kind of easy point of attack at the minute. And as David highlighted in a few moves earlier, if the queen and rook try to line up on the H line, then it doesn't get anywhere either. So the big problem for Liam is, again, how to tuck his king into safety and, again, just enjoy his space. That's his kind of long-term goal. Just trade off some pieces, clarify the position, to keep control of the space, and wait for Magnus to do something.
I must admit, I'm impressed by both players' calmness, at least on the camera, at least visually, because I would be feeling a bit frantic, a bit nervous around here. Just one side eventually is going to break the tension. We will see some piece exchanges, like we mentioned, black's bishop maybe taking the white knight or something along those lines. But when that happens, it will be chaos. And just the fact they've both spent quite a long time over the last few moves, it means they're both unsure of the plans, unsure of when to make that break, when to make that trade. But at least on the camera, they're looking super calm.
Magnus going up to thinking now for 3 minutes. Which moves is he looking at?
He's looking at pawn breaks, most likely. Also, the first thing we talk about in every position, checks, captures and threats. No good checks available for black. Actually, maybe one. Black's knight could jump in, as I highlighted, and check the white king. So possibly that's on the radar. If he's not a fan of that one, he'll rule it out. Then he'll look for captures. For example, black's bishop taking the white knight. There we go. And he does actually capture. I was going to say, the next thing he would have looked for if he wasn't attracted to this move would have been threats, creating some threats.
And I have a question here. Can just black abandon all idea of material and just go, I'm going to jump forward with the knight? Just give up.
Which knight?
The knight that's under attack. Jump it forward to the f4 square. He doesn't go for that.
He jumps back where he came from a few moves ago. I like your move, Jovanka, jumping into this square. However, I think right now it wouldn't quite work because the bishop could take... it has a choice of 2 knights on the menu. He should take this knight. And this pawn's actually overworked after a capture. Unfortunately, this knight would drop. But that's a nice idea because it's very typical, actually. If the bishop had taken the other knight, then suddenly this bishop is unleashed on the diagonal. This rook is unleashed towards the white king. Just not, unfortunately, possible for Magnus. So he's jumped the other way and still very tense. I'm so afraid of this white king coming under fire. This knight is still threatening to jump in with a nasty check. If you put your bishop on the wrong square, for example, going off this side now, maybe the other black knight jumps in and look at these two together. Another nasty check for the white king. But at some point, this king needs to just use its escape route and run away because the attack is brewing. And in the meantime, it's not easy for white to improve the pieces. I'm expecting a move of this bishop, maybe to this square, just to run and hide with the king.
All right. But that's going to take a lot of time.
It's going to take a lot of time, and there is one open line on the board, and it's this open C line, and only black will make an attempt to control it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Liam is probably thinking about right now. He's weighing up that plan of evacuating the king. Okay, there we go, the bishop move. I just feel that was the most logical, the most natural at least. But yeah, it does take this move and at least 2 more moves to run away with the king now. So Magnus has 2 or 3 moves to utilize his pieces, make use of the open file, as Jovanka mentioned, maybe bring the black rook to the c file or jumping around with the black knights, maybe even bring the black queen over out to the left side of the board, use her on some diagonals, just finds an angle of attack somehow. But at least everything's defended for white.
And are the 2 knights, the black knights, superior to the white bishops?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Kaja, because bishops and knights, we talk about them a lot and compare them, but with blocked structures in the center of the board, if you look at the center of the E file and the D file, the pawns there are blocked. They've locked everything up. Knights are better than bishops when things are closed in the center. If the center is completely open, if there are no pawns in the center, bishops are better than knights, usually.
Got it.
So in this position, it's just because knights are more flexible. You've seen the knights jumping around loads. You saw Magnus get rid of one of the white knights for his bishop. And I don't think white should ever do the same and capture black's knight in the center of the board with his dark squared bishop, because after a recapture, black's rook suddenly comes to life on the central file.
Yeah.
So yeah, knights over bishops here every time.
Wow. Well, I'm definitely learning a lot from you, David. And you can too, obviously, by following our show. But you can also get a private chess lesson with Grandmaster David Howell. That is what we're focusing on in the auction today as a fundraiser for UNICEF. All the money coming in the auction goes to UNICEF. And if you head to cctauction.com, you can make a bid. Let's check what the current bid. I think it's 300. Oh, wow. It's gone up to $425. Ooh. You're a popular man, David Howell.
I just hope that I can help now. Whoever wins the bid, I'm hoping to help their chess as much as possible, answer any questions, and yeah, it's going to be a fun session, either way, hopefully.
And talking about popularity, I do have to share with you a selfie. It's really cute. It's from Martinez, who says their dog is watching me, watching you. It's a very, very cute dog.
We do love the animals.
Yeah, we are a big fan of animals. And if you two want to share your selfies, send us your thoughts, your questions, then remember you can always tweet us using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
And if you didn't follow us in the Air Things Masters, I think the cutest / strangest animal we had following the chess show was a mini cow. It was a mini. Do you remember the mini? It was like this big. It was a real cow.
No, it was a footstool.
No, we had this. You remember?
I remember, Kaja.
Yeah. It was like a mini cow, a real cow, but it was this big, and it was watching chess.
Okay.
Yeah.
We get all sorts here. Chess is very inclusive. We include everyone. So, okay. Meanwhile, big decision from Magnus Carlsen, and the evaluation bar really hates that move. I'm still undecided.
Wow.
It could be a really good one long term, but temporarily, it's double-edged. Black is just trying to trade off the queens. Black's just shuffled the queen across one square. There's tension now between the queens. Liam, notice how he doesn't rush for that decision. He wants it to happen on his terms. And there we go. Liam actually had pre-moved. He didn't even need to kind of put his hand back on the mouse. He had just assumed that black would capture the queen and white recaptured now with the bishop. So queens have gone. It's all about maneuvering. So no direct attack on the kings. I'm partly disappointed. We won't see any checkmates anytime soon. But then again, still very tense. Especially the black knights are strong. So I still think Magnus has a fair share of the chances. One thing I will mention as well is the evaluation bar, slightly on white side. Earlier it was a bit more on white side. Computers tend to overestimate white's chances with this blocked pawn structure in the center. If you notice white's d5 pawn, anytime white gets a pawn on that square, computers say white has a big advantage or white is winning, just because computers love space. But for humans, it's maybe less of an issue, especially now there have been some trades. Magnus is not cramped with his pieces anymore.
Wow. No, and I was going to say, there's only one person who has all the long-term prospects and the prospects of controlling the position. And I'm just looking at the open C line. Magnus holds the power of that one in his hands. He just has to get a rook to the open C line. And there's no way that the two white rooks will be able to coordinate in a satisfactory way because the dark square bishop gets in the rooks. The rook are sitting on g3's way. And also, let's talk about pawn breaks as well. I mean, when we have... if you go onto the left side of the board, there's only one pawn that can march forward, and that's the b5 pawn can step forward one square, and suddenly maybe it's the b line that will be under Magnus's control. And this dark square bishop that Magnus has, well, he can kind of, at the right time, with care, he can maneuver it around and maximize its potential. So I agree with you. I really don't like white's position.
Yeah. It's not that I don't like white's position. Actually, if I had to choose, I'd probably choose white. But I don't think he has. I don't think he has an objective advantage. I'm just more used to the white side of these positions. I hate being cramped. I just love having this kind of stronghold in the center.
You need your space.
Yeah, I need my space.
In life and in chess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone needs their own space. But yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm sure who I would choose. I think I'd be pretty happy on both sides. Both sides have reason to be positive about their position, but yeah, it's very much in the balance. So yeah, let's just ignore the evaluation bar unless there's a big swing in either direction.
And Liam Le, he's going down to 3 minutes on the clock. It looks like we can have a bunch of really interesting results in this round 13. Pragnananda, the bar over to his side in that very critical game against Hans Niemann. David Anton, the bar over to his side in that game against Richard Report. Is that correct? Yes. And that could be super important points. And Gawain Jones, the bar is over to his side in that game against David Navarra. Navarra is fighting to qualify for knockout. It's looking good for Ding. It's looking good for Van Forest. And Eric Hansen, the bar all the way over to his side in that critical game against Vedic. These two players are fighting to qualify. And we do have a king move.
Yeah, a king move, and one that we maybe expected. White's king just slightly safer, at least on this square, but it doesn't necessarily long-term improve White's chances. Yeah, I'm just loving the fact there's so many decisive games at the beginning of today.
Yeah.
Well, it's looking that way at least. The standings are going to have a real shake-up.
You can see that the players, they know that it's either win or you go home after today for some of these players.
Yeah, and it's also great to see people who have been struggling play the role of spoilers because, you know, we love a plot twist. And they see a trade of pawns, and now the H-line has been opened.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that one, Jovanka. I think it's just because I've been watching so many games of computers lately, of AI, I would have maybe just pushed the white pawn onto the h6 square just to fix it there for an endgame, maybe just trap the black king. Yes, white has an open file now, the h file, but it's not clear what you're going to do with it. Even if you bring the other white rook at the bottom of the board across, you double up your rooks on the h file. The black bishop in front of the king keeps any checks as just a distant dream. So, meanwhile, Magnus making his move with his knights. Wow, look at those two black knights. They are real nuisances now in the white camp.
And he's preparing that pawn push that I spoke about, you know, just pushing the b pawn one square, and he has his eyes on the sitting b2 pawn.
Yeah, and okay, that was Liam's idea, not to go and attack against the Black King, and not to double up the white rooks in the H-file, but to just reroute his rooks to the first rank so they are connected. Rooks always better when they are connected. And Magnus, yeah, Jovanka, you mentioned it, he's building up, and he wanted to use the C-file for black, the rooks especially, but white's bishop is covering the key C8 square. So black's rook needed to take a step down, and now it will swing across, that way, to the C-file, maybe even the B-file. Very patient, flexible play from the world champion, and it does feel like the momentum is changing now in black's favour. White's had to spend 3 awkward moves rerouting the rook to the first rank, but what next? Okay, at least he's got some indirect threats, maybe, against the Black Knights. The Black Knights look super strong right now.
And we do have one result now in round 13. Erik Hansen won against Vedic, and this is especially very dramatic for Vedic because he still has 2 games to play against 2 of the strongest players. He still has to face Ding and Magnus Carlsen today. It's starting to look hard for Vedic to qualify. Erik Hansen, slight chances. We know Ty told us if he wins all 3 games today, it is possible for him.
Okay, and Liam, meanwhile, what do you think of this move, Jovanka?
I love this move. I mean, I was thinking actually when Liam moved his rook to the D line, I thought, well, Magnus has to take some care because some exchanges are happening. So I was really surprised actually to see Magnus quickly move the rook to the open line.
And
because
he just made a face as well. He just grimaced.
I don't think he saw it at all. He didn't consider it.
Yeah, so just okay, slightly shaking his head there. But Magnus, he's leaned forward. He's not happy because pieces are coming off the board. Knights are going to get traded. Look at Magnus. He's not happy at all, and he's had to step back. He's lost a lot of time now with his knights, and at the very least, Liam could just trade a couple of pieces in the centre of the board. Black is not losing a pawn because this black knight that just moved is threatening the e4 pawn, so we might just see a couple of trades, but Liam maybe just the momentum turning against him, he's found a way to stop that and fight back. So.
I think now it's anyone's game, actually. If I were Liam, I don't think I could resist the tension. I can't handle that at all, and I would just capture the knight. It's been a nuisance for such a long time, and get rid of it.
Yeah, I think there's nothing else to do. You have to just initiate some trades. The only other option for white is maybe retreating with your knight back where it came from, but that would be a sad move to play. It looks like black is ready to start pushing pawns on this left side, so you have to speed up the play. You don't want to go passive, don't want to start retreating.
And talking about speeding up, Liam has to speed up because he's just under 1 minute. Yeah,
Oh, it's getting dramatic for Liam Le. 50 seconds left on the clock.
He looks very chill, though.
He does. Well, he is a previous World Blitz champion, correct?
2013 he won the championships.
Super strong in this fast time control.
Okay, wow, Liam has just sacrificed material. So he actually temporarily is a pawn up, but he's put his rook on a square that can be captured by black's bishop. If black's bishop goes and takes the rook, though, the black king might be in serious mortal danger. We have to show this. This is really, really clever. So this is the position we were discussing. We thought, okay, initiate some trades. Get rid of this black knight in the centre. It's been a thorn in your side for too long. He did indeed capture it, but after a recapture, I was assuming just bishop takes. I don't know about you, Jovanka.
Yep.
And now after the black knight captures the pawn in the centre of the board, it's level pawns and roughly balanced. Maybe he was just scared of the black knight, maybe threatening this pawn, the black rook coming in to annoy the white king on the second rank. And so Liam took drastic measures, and here he has indeed sacrificed his rook temporarily. And he actually guards his pawn in the centre of the board. But if the rook is captured, then yes, white is down on material, a bishop for a rook. But look at this, the black bishop, the key defender of the black king, has disappeared. And after, for example, knight takes pawn, suddenly the white rook swings across and white wins. This is just deadly. The white rook threatening to come up here actually with a checkmate already, supported by the bishop. And yeah, this one just looks deadly. Yeah. How do you stop this idea of rook check?
You can try to run away with the king, but it doesn't work because the bishop initiates cage. Operation cage is what I want to say. And the bishop comes to f6 and...
I'm not so sure, Jovanka. Unfortunately here, black can actually capture the bishop and go back with his king to stop any checkmate. I think you can just be materialistic, give a check and win the black rook on the 8th rank. Just skewer. And okay, wow, Magnus did go for this. He's really brave, the world champion. He did capture the white rook in the middle of the board, and after a recapture, he's jumped in with his knight. But I think this cage idea might just be very, very strong for white. Why can't white just plant his bishop here? Has he done this?
No,
he's
he
dropped
hasn't.
back
He's
with his
dropped it
bishop.
back.
But now the king is caged forever. The rook is simply coming across, and this looks very strong for Liam, but he didn't go for this. Instead, dropping back with his bishop, trying to make this knight commit. But now, at least, very minimum, the black knight can block out this white rook from the game. And also hitting this bishop in the process. I think Magnus needs to find this move. I don't know if we can get the Stockfish suggestions up, but if you don't block out this rook, simply the rook is going to come across and checkmate you. And, OK, he doesn't necessarily need to find this. There are other moves in the position. He can also drop back with a check. That also gives black decent chances. Very natural. But the third move there, not natural at all, I feel, dropping back with a knight, because this knight will be dislodged by a pawn. So, OK, he does find the best move according to the computer. And now, suddenly, I think Liam missed an opportunity. His rook not in the game. And if he could leapfrog this knight and come over, it would just end in checkmate. But this is a big obstacle to overcome.
You can't do it. You're going to have to retreat with your bishop to chase away that knight.
Yeah, I mean, first you have to deal with this bishop. You have to just move it. I'm not sure where. Maybe you go back where you came from, but then suddenly the black rook can come in and harass. OK, he just moves one square, keeping everything defended. But he's lost time, Liam. I think he may have had a winning move, actually, on the last turn. But yeah, just now his bishop defending this pawn. It's all about the rooks. And look at this, Magnus trying to open up his rooks on these lines. And it's chaos. White's pawn's pushing forward, black's pawn's pushing forward. Magnus could go for this pawn. No, he attacks the white bishop instead. Let's keep an eye on the players, because there's a threat after threat every single move. And black is ahead on material.
Yeah, but I was going to say what's going to happen after pawn takes pawn. But, you know, it does look like rook takes bishop is met by rook takes knight.
Oh, but look at the bar
pawn
now.
takes pawn.
Rook takes would be met by rook takes knight, Ivanka,
Yeah.
you were saying?
Yeah.
And pawn takes pawn is the other move you're thinking about.
Yes.
Pawn takes here. And, yeah, this looks really scary, pushing down. And remember, white can't recapture because there's a pin on this line. Wow, chaos. Complete chaos, despite the fact it's an endgame.
So is it down to those two black pawns storming up the board that the bar is now really liking this for Magnus?
I think it's these pawns, and they are stronger than white's pawns. White's pawns can be stopped by the black rooks. Black's rook, for example, can come across. And, OK, he does actually capture the bishop, the safer option. And now I think Magnus is going to go, yep, there we go. He's going to remove these pawns. And still anyone's game, white defending those pawns. And, yeah, Magnus is definitely better. No risk at all for him now, because simply the rook is better than the bishop, and that's the material advantage. But, OK, here we go. He's going after the white pawns now.
And Navarro was able to turn it against Gawain Jones to win that game. David Navarro is in the fight to qualify for the knockout stage 3. Very important points for him in round 13.
Yes. Wow. I'm fascinated to check out the standings after this round.
Yeah.
Because things have really changed. Meanwhile, Liam, under 30 seconds, he needs to make a decision. Those white pawns, are they going to drop? The pawns in the centre look good for white, but they are under lock and key. And, OK, he's just trying to hope that everything gets eliminated on this left side of the board.
And if everything does get eliminated,
Even
drawing possibilities?
Maybe some drawing chances for Liam, but it's only black who can win, right? And, yeah, if all of the pawns get eliminated from the left side, I'm assuming one of white's double D pawns gets eliminated as well.
Yeah.
The rook's just so much better than the white bishop. The white bishop, purely a defensive piece.
It's tempting, actually, just to play, push the pawn forward, move it to b3, and Magnus does it.
You need to keep one pawn alive, right?
Exactly.
Potential
and
queen.
it's 2 squares away from queening. You know, you just have to get rid of the b2 pawn, which is possible.
It's definitely possible. It's going to happen next move. Black is definitely guaranteed to go and capture the white's b2 pawn, and now black's pawn that has just pushed 2 squares away from promotion. Liam down to 10 seconds as well. He needs to move. He needs to capture this pawn. There was nothing else to do. And, OK, Magnus first captures one of the annoying passed pawns. And everything's dropping for white now. It's not quite level material. It's a white bishop and pawn for a black rook, but the white bishop and pawn really struggling. OK, Liam at least trying to use pawns as distractions. And I think the black king might move here. Yeah, there we go. This is just a typical Magnus move. The black rooks are both doing good jobs. One blocking white's pawns, one protecting its own pawns. The king is the only piece in an endgame that needs to be mobilised now. And white doing the same.
Yeah, it does the same, but the big problem is what's next for white. I mean, there's only so far you can go forward with your Alice the A-pawn, and Magnus improving every single one of his pieces.
Yeah. I think if the queenside pawns, so white's A-pawn and black's B-pawn, if they get traded off, I think Magnus would love to see the one set of rooks disappear as well in the process. The only way Liam is going to save this game is if he keeps his rook on the board. I think his bishop alone against a rook, no chance. I think he needs to keep one active piece on. So Liam doing a good job. Notice how he avoided that rook trade. The white rook is needed. Okay.
Oh.
Magnus just allows a trade of these queenside pawns. I'm slightly surprised he rushed with that decision. He could have gone for it any time. He could have gone for this any time over the next 10 moves, and the evaluation bar did slightly drop.
I'm very surprised at that as well, because I do remember a long, long time ago at my very first Olympiad that we had a position similar to this, and I was told rook and bishop against two rooks. Don't swap off into rook and bishop, just like you said. And that's kind of stuck with me until now, really.
Yeah. And Magnus just putting his rook behind white's central pawn. White's bishop, we should clarify, is still just a defensive piece, but white can try and build a fortress. Actually, it's hard for black's king to kind of come down the 6th rank. It's hard for white to get the rook, black to get the rooks in the game, and white's rook will just act as an annoyance. But then again, black's other rook now finally able to join the action. I'm expecting it to come down the whole way to the 1st rank and kind of sneak behind white's king to deliver some checks.
And I'm just thinking ahead to the future, can white set up some kind of fortress with, first of all, pushing the f-pawn one square forward so that it supports the bishop, and then just putting the king on the 4th row next to the bishop. So, you know, have the pieces all huddled together. Not beautiful chess, but maybe protective enough.
That's his only chance. Yeah, white has to just protect everything and hope that there's no breakthrough for black. And computers, again, they do misevaluate sometimes fortress positions. They often give a big advantage to the side who's ahead on material, but they don't understand that, there's just no way to push that advantage even further. But still, this one could go on for a while. Magnus trying to find a way to stop any fortress being built.
Even if he doesn't believe in them.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in fortresses, but they do exist sometimes.
So, we talk about fortresses a lot. What is a fortress?
It's normally when you're down on material, but you, for example, as Jovanka mentioned, you just protect everything and there's no way for your opponent with that extra material to break through. For example, if I'm assuming the white king might step forward now, there we go. And if white's f-pawn, as Jovanka mentioned, also takes one step forward, white is protecting everything. Okay, there is a threat, actually. Black has pinned the 4th rank, so black wants to go and capture white's central pawn now. The white bishop is not actually defending anything. But yeah, a fortress is when everything's protected, there's no way to break through, there's no winning plan, essentially. So sometimes you can even create a fortress with a rook against a queen. Sometimes there's just no way for the enemy king to break through. But this one, does it feel like a fortress to you, Jovanka? I think white would love to, those pawns on the 5th rank, love to pick them up and put them back further down the board. Fortresses rarely exist when your pawns are far forward, because they're actually more vulnerable.
Yeah, there's just too many spaces, too many lines to attack them. Doesn't quite feel like a fortress, but does feel like hard work. So...
yeah, hard work in chess, it's unavoidable sometimes, unfortunately. Okay, Liam, meanwhile, he slightly reacted there on the camera, but there is, again, maybe a threat. There's a pin on the g-file. White's bishop is basically not taking part in the game, so black was threatening to capture the pawn in the center of the board. So white went to attack black's remaining pawns, forcing the black king back. Now I think we'll see a check from the white rook, forcing the black king even further back.
And David Anton, 3 points, a win against Richard Report. It's gonna be so tight on the table after this round. We're gonna have a bunch of players on basically the same score.
Huge result there for David Anton.
Yeah.
He needed it and looked like a crazy game as well. But okay, notice how white has driven away the black rook and now going forward with his king again. He needs to still hope that he can build a fortress. And it looks like he's done well, Liam. He's driven the black king back. And he's also cut off the black king from re-entering the left side of the board. The white rook doing a good job. That's normally as well another way you create a fortress. You cut off the enemy pieces at 20 seconds. It's going to be hard to defend this one with 20 seconds.
Definitely hard. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of what Magnus has done with his king. I guess he was worried about how safe his pawns were on the right side. And
Bit of a sneaky idea
It is a
here.
sneaky idea. The whole idea is that if black were to capture the pawn, then white too would capture the f7 pawn with his rook, and lo and behold, the bishop will actually manage to take off the black rook. And this position is more of a fortress, and it's just a lot less easy. Well, it's a lot easier to hold because there are less pawns on the board.
Yeah, black cannot really afford to trade pawns. Black needs to win pawns in order to win this game. And white would love to trade a set of pawns, even at the cost of trading rooks, which otherwise he might not want to do.
I was surprised. I was thinking that he would put his rooks on the fourth row and target the far advanced pawn.
Yeah, that looked good too. I guess Magnus has the luxury of just maneuvering around forever and ever. And now, okay, he was attacking a pawn, and the white king just defended it, attacking the black rook in the process. Yeah, so Magnus can just go around, put his rooks on the first rank, then try the second rank, then try the third rank, try the fourth rank, because white is just basically stuck. That's the one good thing I like against playing potential fortresses. Is you can just kind of look for weaknesses in the kind of in the brickwork of that fortress, and that's what Magnus is trying to do. And okay, the retreat of the rook does allow black to go back to the fifth rank with his rook. Magnus slightly frowning there.
Yeah.
So close to winning, but still so far from winning. It's chess is so frustrating.
And we see Liam Le, he has some big fans out there cheering for him. 1 a.m. in Vietnam. We know it's very late for some of our players as well. The ones sitting in Asia. It's late at night for them. But Liam Le, he is sitting in the US early in the morning, actually.
Yeah, and he's under 10 seconds. And when you go under such when you go to that time control, you leave yourself with less than 10 seconds, then this is when panic starts to set in, and you have to have a very strong mindset to be able to cope with these rise in this rise in all the pressure.
And I don't really like where white has positioned his rook. Rooks are not great defenders of pawns. Rooks want to be doing more active duties, so now the white king passive as well. Now it's time for the black king to re-centralize itself.
Yeah.
And it feels like white's kind of on the edge. You can't move the white rook because a pawn will drop. You can't move the white king safely. You have to move the bishop, but look at this in the corner. Ugh,
but
ugly again.
Can you not start trying to attack one pawn that's up for grabs, which is the f2 pawn? No, you
with
can.
which piece? The black?
You can do it with the black rook on in e5.
You want to slide it across to the f5 square.
Yeah.
I think the big problem with that is white's pawn will come forward to f4, and maybe the black rook is trapped.
It's trapped.
So, yeah, Magnus has had that opportunity a few times, and now he is going for the f2 pawn, as you mentioned, Jovanka, just with his other rook. And, OK, you can gang up your two rooks against it, maybe, but I think Magnus should just focus on improving the black king. I don't think there's any immediate rush, and the evaluation bar has suddenly gone up in black's favour. It was kind of fixed where it was for a while, meaning that Liam hadn't made any mistakes, but now maybe an opportunity for Magnus. And does that involve trying to find a way through? It's still so hard. No matter which pawn you attack, white's rook will defend.
Maybe time just to bring in the king.
Yeah.
Centralise the king, you know.
Very natural. Magnus now down to 15 seconds.
He has to make a move.
Yeah. He can make a few quick moves, but he isn't really making progress. He gives another check. Second time we've seen this position, and he does eventually move the king. He's definitely not going to go for a draw. Repeating position 3 times. OK, the bishop does move.
And 20 seconds left for Magnus Carlsen. Now, the next round, round 14, will start 10 minutes after the last game in this round has finished, so that all games on this crucial final day in the preliminaries start at the same time.
Yeah, and actually, we've talked about this so much already in the Charity Cup, but the 50 move rule is going to be quite relevant here because the last capture was on move 48. So if we get to move 98 without any captures, any pawn moves, then it's going to be a draw. So Magnus needs to win one of the white pawns before move 98. He's running out of time. OK, there has been a pawn move, though, so that's resets. The 50 move rule completely resets, and this is not good news for Liam. Look at that white rook. It's blocked in amongst its own pawns, and the black king is making its way round now. Ooh, white is almost completely frozen. You can only really move your bishop.
Yeah, that is true. And you don't have a great... Hang on a second. The bishop can, I was going to say, snake itself in one way, but it can't. It can't do anything.
White would love to pick up the bishop and attack that black rook on the f5 square. That black rook is on a light square and actually just can't escape. The problem is there's just no way to attack it.
Yeah. Instead, we're going to see the plan that you advocated in one of the earlier games on the tour, where the king marches all the way to the right side and starts looking at its counterpart.
Yeah. Also, a Magnus game yesterday against Van Foreest. So yesterday, Magnus was actually the one trying to create the fortress against Van Foreest, and today he is the one trying to break the fortress. It's funny how chess works sometimes, taking on these opposite roles. And Black's king is really close. It just needs 2 more moves. The Black king is going to use the dark squares, but it's just going to go across, and go after these white pawns on the king side, on the right side.
And just wanted to point out, note how the king travels on the dark squares. It's not travelling on light squares, just in case of any tactical possibilities.
Yeah, and Liam is really running out of time on the clock, but also on the board, because the Black king is only 2 squares away. Magnus, surely he can bring the king closer now. Then Liam only has 1 move to stop the continued journey of this Black king. I mean, this Black king could be winning the game. And what has happened there? The player's leaning back. Has Liam resigned? Magnus thinking, no, it looks like no result yet. But both players reacted, right?
Yeah.
What has happened? Magnus down under 20 seconds. He does bring his king forward. As expected, that king is just going to go back to the e3 square, the black square, and White's pawn is about to fall.
And 8 seconds for Liam.
He has to make a move.
Yeah.
He has to
4
make a move.
seconds.
What
3
move
seconds.
is it? What move is it? I don't think there are many moves to save this game.
He made it with 1 second left on the clock.
Yeah, and he is just moving backwards and forwards with his bishop. He doesn't have an active plan. So now the Black king simply can take a step diagonally backwards.
Yep. White's pawns are dropping. Look at this. All of Black's pieces, both rooks and the Black king, are looking at the f4 pawn, and that pawn is doomed. So White abandons its defence, and Magnus now, still some hard work to be done, re-coordinating his pieces. Maybe there'll be some annoying checks against the Black king. There we go. But, OK, he's won a pawn. It took him a long, long time. It took him 30, 40 moves, but he won a pawn, and now back to square one. He has to reroute his Black king maybe back where it came from and start attacking these remaining white pawns. And Liam just defending both of them with his rook.
What do you think about that move? Because it does allow Black to step backwards with his f-rook and offer a rook trade.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, that would require some serious calculation. Offering a rook trade right now, it might work, probably does work, but big decision for Magnus. Any trades that you can consider with 10 seconds left do require courage and good calculation. And okay, he goes for this rook trade. This is either winning now, completely winning, or White can hold the draw with really precise play, but it feels closer to the win because Black's king, I was going to say, the king is going to come across. White blocks that off. The only problem for Magnus now is his pawns are doubled.
Yeah.
And, double pawns rather than connected pawns, it's not ideal.
That's true, but somehow or other, it just feels like, you know, Black has to now mobilize the king, perhaps try to work the king back towards the center where all the action is happening.
Yeah, I must say, I think practical terms, I hate that decision swapping rooks, because look at this. Black's remaining pawn now, the pawn at the top of the board, the f7 pawn, is about to get traded off, and White still has a couple of pawns running. I just think Magnus, maybe, okay, 3 seconds he made that move with. He might still be winning, but he's made it difficult for himself. Keeping the rooks on, maybe. Just slightly more practical, and okay, it's one pawn versus one pawn.
Whoa, look at the bar.
That's the thing.
And Magnus reacts. Has he blundered the win?
You think he's blundered the win? Yeah, he absolutely has, because now the white pawn will just run, and it can run for a long time.
Don't run with the pawn. Drop your bishop back, attack Black's remaining pawn. If the two pawns get traded off, there we go. It's a simple draw. White's king coming up and rook against bishop is a draw. Magnus, is he even going to try? No, he doesn't try, and Liam escapes. It's king versus king. It's a draw. Wow.
What a dramatic ending to that game. A draw means Liam Le is still on top of the table, but it's drama. in and around the 8th place, the crucial 8th place to qualify for the knockout stage. And in the next round, in 10 minutes, we're going to follow the game between young Pragnananda and Jordan van Forest. This is also the Charity Cup. We are doing fundraising for UNICEF, and 1.5 million children are now becoming refugees. They need help. They need protection to stay safe. I'm joined in the studio now by Norwegian TV host and UNICEF ambassador Leo Ajkic. Welcome to our chess show.
Thank you very much.
Now, Leo, it's very difficult to see these images from Ukraine. You're from Bosnia. You were 7 when the war came to your country. And is the war in Ukraine reminding you about what you went through as a child?
Definitely. Even the pictures are a bit similar. You see young children, women escaping. You see men trying to stay behind and protect their country. So it reminds me a lot. It's the similar pictures, and people go through the same thing when it's war. Yeah. They have to run away, they have to hide, they have to get the most necessary things that we sometimes take for granted, especially in, let's say, in Norway, where we live comfortably.
Yeah. And what kind of things did you see and experience as a child that a child should never be exposed to?
I think I saw the way grown-ups, the worst things that grown-ups can do possible is like killings and war and fighting. So it was hard to keep believing in Santa Claus after seeing all those things. So it was like a harsh reality check that children shouldn't face so early.
Yeah, and you know better than many what the children in Ukraine are going to. Can you still remember the fear that you were feeling being in war?
Definitely. It's the same siren, the same sound. And every time I heard that sound, I remember my hair just rose from the body, because that siren meant that we should go to the basement and hide. And the similar siren, or same one, was also a sign of the attacks are finished. So now it's possible to get out. So it was kind of strange feeling, because that sound also means, okay, it's finished bombing, but the first time you hear it, it means the bombings are coming. So I heard the same sound on the news here in Ukraine when the bombs are coming. So that sound is a sound of fear. If you have a dentist, if you're scared of the dentist when he's in your head, that's the same, similar type of sound.
It's horrible. And we're hearing stories from UNICEF about children. They suddenly stop speaking when they come out of Ukraine. They suddenly sleep a lot more. How were you affected emotionally?
My parents did the best they could do to prevent me from experiencing the worst possible things. Yeah. I knew they were happening. I heard the bullets, I heard the grenades, but I didn't see none of my closest die. I wasn't affected. So I felt lucky in a way. Later on in my life, I see that the things I've experienced had something to do with me. Let's say I used to love mathematics. Chess is kind of mathematics, but I had problems concentrating. And if you can't concentrate, it's difficult to do mathematics and solve the problem, because you need concentration. Yeah. So it did something to my, let's say, concentration in a young age.
Now, we're seeing images from Ukraine. UNICEF is, of course, providing the children with life-saving stuff, food, shelter, but also a lot of toys and games, maybe chessboards. How important is it in a war that children are allowed to just be children?
Super, super important. And children have the ability to escape things fast. Like some small game, within seconds, minutes, sometimes you can escape the whole situation. Especially when you are young, you often use your imagination when you play. When you play chess, you don't play chess in a basement. You play chess in a castle, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So kids have the special ability to escape with the imagination, and games and fun stuff can help them be children again.
Yeah, and now we're going to be children again. We're going to play some chess. You were down at the good night with Askild yesterday practicing for the challenge.
Yes.
Did he teach you any party tricks?
I feel like he teach me the opening, like how to approach a girl and say, do you want to dance? But when it comes to the dancing, my feet are gonna stumble maybe, I don't know. It's just a matter of time.
Well, you're gonna have a chance to prove yourself on the chessboard. Now we're gonna play the Play Magnus Charity Challenge. Leo will have 2 minutes on the clock. The aim is to last as many moves as possible. And on behalf of an anonymous donor, Play Magnus Group will donate $100 per move you last. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, well, go ahead and make your first move, Leo. This will be an interesting game. And David, you're going to comment.
That's right, and okay, King's Pawn opening, good start. Magnus reacts with the Sicilian defense, the knight comes out. This is a good, quick pace. The bishop needs to find a safe square. There we go.
Us playing.
Oh my God, man, I don't even know.
Getting ready to castle.
Perfect so far. Keep up the speed, this is good.
Good stuff.
The bar is on your side, Leo.
Yeah, it's looking good for white.
The bar on my side?
Yeah, that's a good, yeah.
Okay, knight in the center, defending white's central pawn. This is perfect as well.
Let's, I don't know.
It's time for your favorite move, Leo. Okay, pushing pawns.
Remember, you can castle as well.
I can what? Oh.
Yes, and there we go.
Reminded me.
I think Askild was saying.
The king is
The king.
safe.
But let's just, should I attack or should I not attack?
Ooh, lots of choices.
Let me attack, just for fun of it.
I agree.
No, he will eat
Bold,
me.
bold move.
It's horrible move.
No, it's bold. It's
Bold is
brave.
brave, yeah.
Okay, we're trying. Oh no!
Okay, just a trade in the center.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I
Nice
killed
spot,
my own
Mike.
defense now.
wow. The aim is to last as many moves as possible, and still more than a minute left on the clock.
This is good. It's all about the speed. Just keep developing those pieces, improving them. Okay, and now on the edge of the board. And 1 minute still left. Got a lot of moves already. And ooh, you can even check that black king. Oh, nice. Okay, black king under fire. Black blocks it. Oh, Magnus H10 is just too good to see everything.
He
Where
does
can I
see
put
everything.
this guy? Maybe here?
Nice. This is actually a very Magnus type of move, swinging the rook across.
And you're getting those moves out still. More than 40 seconds left on the clock. This is going to be a lot of money for UNICEF.
And that rook is
Attacking the
being
queen.
incredible, you know, attacking and keep on going.
And yeah, a lot of money is going to be donated. Still 40 seconds left. Okay,
Oh, and look at that queen move.
rook falls in the corner, but still a few pieces left for white. The fight can continue for a long, long time. Okay.
Okay, trapping that queen.
Yep.
Let's just kill something.
This rook is doing all the hard work in white's position, all the heavy lifting.
But it doesn't matter because the king is safe, and that is the most important thing because moves mean money.
Oh, don't move that bishop. The white queen would fall. The white king maybe needs some breathing space. Okay, pushing pawn's always a good idea.
What is this? This is, oh.
Okay, the knight.
Okay, now it's dangerous, huh?
Yeah.
Now it's dangerous, but we will move the queen or
All
king.
right, the
or
queen
doesn't
is
matter.
joining the action, and 12 seconds left on the clock.
And now time to make a little breathing space for the king.
Okay, a check. So the game can continue. The king is under attack. Nice. Okay, Magnus
Wow, what a
missing.
move.
Magnus missing a checkmate. The game can continue. A few more moves, Leo. 2 seconds.
2 seconds, make a move.
Boom.
Yes!
So he didn't kill me.
You were not checkmated.
So the way Magnus played today, actually I could have a chance, maybe?
Yeah, I would say so.
Is
And
he better now or then?
He is a little bit better now than then.
I'm joking.
But he was still playing international tournaments. And if you press continue, let's see how many moves. 23 moves. Impressive stuff.
That's my favorite number. You know?
Yeah,
That's
I remember yesterday you said to Askild, what date is it? Tomorrow, it's the 22nd. You lasted 23 moves, so I guess that's more than your...
That's one more than I hope for. That's like Michael Jordan or maybe Beckham when he was at his best, number 23.
Fantastic. And it means $2,300 more to UNICEF. Leo, thank you so much for joining us, our challenge.
Thank you so much for donating to a very important case.
Yeah. definitely is an important case. Now, the next round in Charity Cup is about to start. Tomorrow in the Charity Challenge, we have another very cool customer coming to join the challenge. It's a Chelsea player, Christian Pulisic.
Hey guys, I'm Christian Pulisic from Chelsea FC and the US men's national team, and I'm playing in the Play Magnus Charity Challenge.
Game on.
Okay, he's moving fast.
Easily blocked though. Christian's spotting everything so far. Oh, look at the focus.
Yeah.
Castle my king.
Really professional game. Wow, he's stopping every single threat that Magnus is creating. Christian's got a great position, I've got to say. I like it. Magnus is running out of ideas, retreating pieces, retreating a bishop.
Impressive stuff. 55 seconds left on the clock here.
I think this is one of the best games we've seen from anyone challenging Play Magnus.
Wow.
Magnus age 10.
Could Christian win this?
That's better than I did against Magnus, I've got to admit.
Make a quick move, Christian.
Out of time.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're getting so many cool players in our challenge. Christian Pulisic is coming up tomorrow. But now, round 14 just started. Pragnananda, he needs points to qualify for the knockout stage, facing Jordan van Foreest, who has been on fire. I think he's won 4 out of the 5 previous games. So this will be a tough one for Pragnananda.
Yeah, it might be a tough one for Pragnananda, but he's capable. He has beaten many of the world's top players, and he's got white. And look at the speed with which he's been playing so far. It's only move 9. White has just castled the king on move 9, but Pragnananda's got more time than he started with. He's up to 16 minutes and castling the white king here. This is still a very well-known position. It's a variation of what we call the Grunfeld defense. If you want to know more about that, go to Chessable, check out Peter Svidler's course. Peter Svidler, the world's leading expert on the Grunfeld, and I'm pretty sure these two players have studied that course because, every top player, any professional player who wants to delve into this opening needs to check it out. And meanwhile, Van Foreest just does capture a pawn. White normally occupies the centre with pawns in the Grunfeld defence, but Black, meanwhile, tries to chip away at that centre from afar using pieces, and that's exactly what Van Foreest has done. And, White's central pawn was under fire. It stepped forward, attacking the Black Knight, and the Black Knight now on the edge of the board. Black's Knight, normally we say don't go to the side, Knight's on the rim are dim, but it can capture a bishop at any opportunity or can re-centralise itself, so it's OK.
All right.
And White's pawn push, stopping the Black light square bishop coming out.
And funnily enough, I was looking at this position, I was thinking, hang on a second, it's not just the Grunfeld, is it? It's actually, you can get this type of position in an opening that I love, which is the Caro-Kann, and also via the semi-Slav. And this position is actually covered in not just Grunfeld, Peter Svidler's course, but also by Sam Shankland and his course with Chessable on the semi-Slav. And here he just says, because I faced this particular move myself against the English Grandmaster John Ems, and Sam Shankland's recommendation is just develop the light square bishop at some point, and Black is fine.
I think the well-known antidote at some point as well is to trade off White's light square bishop, then trade off a knight and actually capture White's central pawn. Just be greedy, and it's completely fine for Black. But you do need to know a few things, and I think Jordan may be slightly worried that Pragnananda is playing so quickly. He just plays a calm move, just moves his rook to the side, defending a pawn. So very tense opening, still a lot of pieces left, and Prag maybe needing to win this one or wanting to win this one with White to qualify. I think he's chosen a good opening to do that.
Cool. Now, let's take a look at the standings before this round. 14 out of 15 in the preliminaries. Who is safe, who is not safe? Liam Le, he was able to save that draw against Magnus Carlsen, and that means he is still in the lead by 3 points. Jordan van Foreest is safe to qualify on 24 points, and then 3 points after him, Dingley Wren should also be safe. Then we have 3 players now on 19 points. Duda, Report, and Hans Niemann. And then, look at that, 4 players on 18 points. David Anton currently the last player inside the quarterfinals. David Navarra is on the same score, but behind him on tie breaks, Vedic, 18 points, and Pragnananda on 18 points. Also, Eric Hansen winning in the previous round. So did Hare Krishna. They now have 15 points. I mean, so many players can still qualify. Yeah. This is intense.
That's crazy. All the way down to 13th place. They're not out of it if Eric Hansen or Hare Krishna win their last 2 games.
Yeah.
Remember, Ty, our numbers guy, our stats guy, he mentioned 21 as maybe the magical number. 22 should secure qualification. 21. So those players, 8th to 11th place, they just need 1 more win out of the last 2 games.
Ideally a bit more, but I mean, they will be keeping an eye maybe on the other games. It's at this point of the tournament now. They'll be keeping an eye on other results. They'll be taking risks. Oof, I can't wait to find out. And Pragnananda, so unlucky with his tie breaks there in 11th place, but one win and he'll jump up.
And he's going to finish off against David Anton, Pragnananda, another player fighting in that mix. But he's going to definitely want to win this one with the white pieces. He's going to have the black pieces in that final game. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. Well, he has a challenge ahead of him, but it's one that he will himself welcome. And I definitely like how this has been heating up. So the line that Jordan chose was a little bit unusual, and White reacting a very normal way, which is just to develop the rook, put it on an open line. And the big question for Black is how are they going to continue development, especially the light squared bishop. So still a lot of excitement left. And well, talking about excitement, I also really like it when everyone at home joins in the fun and joins in the action. And Hélène says that they're watching, and you can take a look at the selfie, and thanks us for the amazing chess broadcast. Thank you very much for your nice commentary.
And it's a dog.
It is a dog.
Very
We do
nice.
like dogs, don't we?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Muzarek is COVID watching.
Oh, no.
Oh, well, you know, good things, bad things. We hope you get well soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
And if you two want to send us your questions, your thoughts, and your selfies, remember in landscape mode is best, then you can always tweet us using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
Okay, and as you predicted, and as you mentioned, Sam Shankland in his chessable course advocated, Black's bishop has just come out to a decent square. It can get hit maybe by a pawn, by a knight later, but for now, this bishop is active. The bishop also has cleared a path for the rook in the corner to slide across to the nice open c-file, and very logical move. I'm expecting White's dark square bishop to come out. It's all about piece development, all about who can get active the quickest, and I expect Prag, after a minute or two of thinking, to bring out his dark square bishop.
It was quite
choice of squares.
It was quite funny because when you said it can get hit, I was like, oh yeah, let's look at what the main move is. Main move is actually attacking that bishop right now.
With a pawn.
With the pawn. And that's really brave stuff because, you know, traditionally, you don't want to be doing those type of things, you know, weakening your own king. But here it seems to be this is the move of choice.
Yeah, I think Prag might regret it if he doesn't get very, very aggressive shortly and start taking those risks. So throwing a pawn forward, even in front of your own king, attacking a bishop, would make a lot of sense with the tournament situation in mind.
Of course. And please don't forget our fundraiser for UNICEF, chess24.com/donate. We did have Leo Ajkic here in the studio. He has experience being in war as a child himself, the sound of war, the sirens ringing, being in bomb shelters, being a refugee, fleeing from war, the fear. Children in Ukraine is going through this now. And the only thing we can do to help is help the organizations that is in Ukraine and around Ukraine. So please help us, help UNICEF do their work, their life-saving work by donating. And we have crossed $60,000. So please just continue donating. It is helping. I actually heard the last number from UNICEF. They have shipped down 800 tons of supplies to the people and the refugees. So it is helping what we're doing. $63,000. And of course, the auction for David's chess lesson as well. Let's see.
It's up to $650, which is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, thank you to everyone who is bidding. Thank you to everyone who's donating. I mean, really, it kind of warms my heart, and it just kind of also feels like the chess community are just clubbing together, and we are forming a nice community and just making sure that we can help everyone in the Ukraine. And I was also listening to Leo's story, and the story about the sirens really had an impact on me. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, that's how kind of like privileged we are, that we're living in a comfortable place, and it's just by luck that we're here, and we are not the ones in somewhere else where things are bad.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, just the sound of those sirens, being a kid. I mean, you're supposed to watch children television, going to sleep, and then you have to run down to a bomb shelter. It's just wrong.
Yeah, could be traumatizing, and that's why UNICEF, I mean, they're doing work not just with resources, but also psychological, physical help, and the kids, they really need it. Can't imagine what they're going through.
Yeah.
And, okay, meanwhile, still a long think from Pragnananda. 3.5 minutes at this point, and still a very standard move from Black, so it's a bit surprising he's thinking so long.
He's feeling the nerves of the tournament situation?
It's the big, momentous occasion. It's this one moment as well. It's almost a must-win game for him because, okay, he's got another opportunity in the last round, but a win here and he'd be on the brink of qualifying. So also, it's a stylistic thing. I think it's not his style to throw pawns forward and get really ambitious this early in the game. He likes to kind of assert control first and then take his chances and then go on the offensive. But maybe now is the moment, and it's an early stage, and maybe he just has to fight against his natural instincts and go for it. And, okay, I thought he was about to make a move just from his body language there, but while he thinks, while he scratches his head, maybe we can jump in, because this is a big moment. It's just after the opening. Both sides have castled, signifying the end of the opening. And now, to push or not to push, that is the question. Throw this pawn forward, attack the Black bishop, force it back to a bad square. The bishop has to go back where it came from. The problem is, for White, you've weakened yourself. You've loosened with this. He goes for it. What a player. So brave. And he just spent a couple of minutes blocking up that courage, and I think he's made the right decision. So you have loosened your king, as I mentioned. This pawn isn't ideal out there, but you can bring pieces to the defense of your king. You can cover a lot of squares. For example, you can jump forward with your bishop now. You can maybe jump into the center with your knight later on. You still have a nice open line. You have a bit more space because your pawn in the center cramps Black's position. And still, yes, your king is open. The pawn wants to be further back, but Black never really is able to organize an attack against it. So I think he's made a good decision, seizing space, kicking Jordan's pieces back, and showing his ambitions.
And I have to say, you always teach me, David and Ivanka, take center. Start the game by taking center. Where's the Black pieces in the center here?
Yeah.
They're going to attack.
They're
White
just
center.
dropping the part about taking center and going straight into attack?
Yeah, they're just... so you have two kind of approaches in chess. You can control the center. That is kind of like the classical way how people play it. Or you can kind of play in a little bit more modern way, which is simply you let your opponent take the center, and then what you do is you restrain that center from advancing, and then you use your pieces to attack. So what Black's plan in this position is, first of all, he has to deal with White's initiative. And then once he's dealt with that, he's going to probably try to undermine the center and just try to open up the position. And finally, if he can't do that, then he has to... I'm trying to think of a way to actually attack the center with the pieces. And in this particular one, it's actually very difficult to see a way to do it.
It's very difficult. I mean, on paper, Black has a great position, right? You have this nice bishop. And actually, I think you mentioned the word modern, Ivanka. They call the Grunfeld one of the hyper-modern openings because it was a bit of a revolutionary one when it was first discovered, because you don't occupy the center at all. You hit the center from afar. So this bishop kind of cuts across on the dart squares. This knight controls the central pawn from afar, at least keeps an eye on it, and you wait until the right moment, and then you break forward with your pawn. So one pawn break would be here, pushing forward, undermining White's pride and joy, the central d-pawn, which is actually isolated. Another idea could be pushing forward the f-pawn, trying to break open White's structure on the king's side. And yeah, it's very much a hyper-modern type of approach. It's not classical thinking. It's not occupying the center, not going for those general rules, but there are ideas behind Black's Grunfeld setup. That's one reason I recommend Chessable. Peter Svidler, his Grunfeld, of course, he explains how you can fight for the center by not necessarily controlling it with pawns. It's from afar with your bishops, with your knights. And talking about fighting for center, White's bishop did step forward. This is actually Black's most central pawn. It doesn't look impressive, but as I mentioned, it would love to step forward and challenge White in the middle of the board. And Prag has prevented that by creating a pin on this diagonal, stopping any active play. So that's the fight right now. Black would love to undermine White's center, but he's unable to do so. And okay, the bishop kicked back and the bishop just retreats. So yeah, I was saying Black on paper has a perfect position. This is an isolated pawn. These are doubled pawns. This pawn a bit weak as well. The White king's so weak, but look at Black's pieces. They're cramped. This knight is completely dominated by pawns. This rook has to kind of be stuck defending the pawn in front of it, because White actually has an open line here. White has an open line here. White has a nice bishop pin. White is active. Black is passive.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting to see maybe black continue with that passivity, maybe rerouting the knight in front of the isolated pawn. That's good strategy as well. But who do you prefer here, Jovanka?
I like white's position, actually. And you forgot one other thing that black has on paper that's meant to be amazing, the bishop pair.
The bishop pair, yeah.
But I agree, it's just like there's not enough space. This big pawn that's sitting in the center, that I know that chessable author Jonathan Rowson of the 7 Deadly Chess Sins, he calls it Delroy, which is a name I've never liked. But he kind of says, you know, this pawn is just clamping down black's position, and it's not easy.
Yeah, and I think I'm not 100% sure on this, but when I read Jonathan Rowson's book, actually understand. Wow, okay, chaos on the board. We'll explain that in a moment. But when I read Rowson's book, he called this whole line Delroy's granite statue because it's just so strong. And earlier, white had supported it with another pawn. But coming back to this position, we both gasped a bit because black now is exploding things open. Now it's complete chaos. The evaluation bar hates this for black. He's trying to, however, undermine the structure in front of white's king. And Jovanka, I think white should just ignore this.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, ignore that, consequence. And I'm thinking, put the bishop onto the center square.
And it looks like this loses a pawn. It looks like it sacrifices a pawn because black now can capture, supported by its bishop. But after bishop takes bishop, you lure out the black king, and suddenly there are nasty checks. And look how open this king is, how lonely it is. No defenders around it. Checkmate's just coming already, I think.
Wow.
The black king, once it steps back, the white knight can jump in. It looks scary, super scary.
Such a reckless move from Jordan because, you know, his position didn't demand, it wasn't ready for this activity. Instead, he needed to kind of grimace a little bit and go backwards and maneuver his pieces a little bit. This way too soon, and the consequences, he's weak in the dark squares. I just think put the bishop in the middle, and it's natural. Just looking at else, it's the only move to get the advantage.
Okay, this is the move we're looking for, planting the bishop in the centre of the board. And as you mentioned, it's natural. That's for two reasons. One, if you leave the bishop here, then it might get locked in. The black pawn will come and attack it. So you don't want your bishop locked in. And the other reason, maybe the only other natural move, is to capture this pawn, but suddenly black's attack, well, I would say attack quite generously here, but at least black gets an active threat against this pawn. So, yeah, the most natural move in the position, the one, your first instinct, Jovanka, very, very strong. Planting the bishop in. Also, it's logical. Get rid of your opponent's only defender of the black king, and it's going to be one-sided traffic. I think Jordan's king is going to be under heavy fire for the rest of the middle game if Prag finds this key move, bishop to e5. And let's go back to the players. Is he going to find it? If he does, he might win this game and he might qualify for the knockouts.
Wow, what a moment for Praggnanandhaa in the tournament. Thinking for 2 minutes, this must be a great time to take that time to think.
Yeah, now is the time. It's a critical moment. And, you know, because Jordan has actually changed the nature of the position. Before it was kind of dynamic, but maneuvering, and it was still relatively quiet. Now it's chaos on the board, and you have to adapt to that shift. And, yeah, I just do think, I mean, the expression manna from heaven will probably be crossing Praggnanandhaa's mind. You'll be like, oh my God, I've been just gifted this golden opportunity just to get Jordan on the back foot.
And are we looking for like that one move from Praggnanandhaa?
Everything else at least lets Jordan back in the game. Now is the moment. You've got to seize this opportunity. While black's pieces are kind of distracted and on passive squares, you have to go and attack against the black king, involving removing the black bishop in front of it. So just trade off that black bishop, the black dark square bishop, and yeah, big attack. And I mean, in order to become a grandmaster at, what was it, 12, 13 years old, like Prag, you have to have good instincts. It's not necessarily about the moves, but it's about sensing the critical moments. And his instincts have paid off. He's thinking right now, but he needs to find this move.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you mentioned, Jovanka, it's one of the most natural moves, maybe one of the top 2 most natural moves.
Okay.
I think he's just trying to work out, maybe he's just shocked that Jordan's gone for this. Maybe he's trying to work out how black can defend and what to do next. But I think within the next minute or 2, he's got to make a decision. And he's just got to go for it.
Yeah.
Everything else.
He's itching for it.
Yeah, you can see on the camera his spidey senses tingling.
Yeah, you can see that, you know, this felt like a really unnatural move. I must admit, David, when you were saying you've only got one chance, one shot, Eminem flashed into my mind.
Oh, he doesn't play it.
He doesn't play it.
He went for the other move I mentioned, also natural, trading a set of pawns, but suddenly the black light squared bishop is allowed out. And
Ooh, this one's more double-edged. This one's not so easy.
Is it still possible, though?
he's still got the advantage. I think he should maybe just continue with the same plan we highlighted. It's just less effective now because black's light squared bishop is more active than it was, and the light squared bishop can actually help to defend the black king, also pointing towards some pawns near the white king.
So why did Prag go for this? What could be his plan? We can see on him he's shaking, that he is, sensing that he is having an advantage.
I think maybe just a little bit of nerves. I think he would have gone, for sure he would have gone for the other move if he had 10, 15 minutes on his clock, if it was just round one of the tournament. But maybe he didn't, maybe he thought he was losing a pawn in the process. We showed he wasn't, but maybe he just thought, OK, this is the safer option. Now, though, he needs to play with energy before the black pieces do start to come to life. Jordan's suddenly looking a bit more focused, a bit more happy. So, OK, I'm expecting the bishop to still plonk itself in the centre. Maybe white's knight can move.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only move that makes sense because otherwise Jordan's gamble has paid off. I mean, if you just step forward passively with your king, well, then black benefited from this pawn trade. Instead, you need to shake the black position up a bit, and the only way to do that is by targeting the defenders and trade off dark square bishops. He's got to do it. The thing is, though, I'm a little bit concerned about the time because he's only got 5 minutes, whereas Jordan has 10 minutes, and things are still to heat up even more. So he needs to leave himself a little margin for this, these complications.
And it's not just the fact that he's getting low on the clock, but he didn't find it the first time, this bishop move. He finds it the second time, though. Prag, still reasserting his advantage. It's not as strong as it would have been, but it's still a strong move. And, the evaluation bar, I'm expecting to go slightly back more in white's favour because I think that was a good move. And it's logical for two reasons. Eliminating the black dark-squared bishop as a defender. Black's king very airy, very open. But also, if your opponent has the bishop pair, trade one of those bishops off. And at least on the dark squares, black is vulnerable once his bishop is removed. So, Jordan needs to be really creative defensively here in order to even survive the next few moves. So, Prag invested that time well, at least on this turn.
Yeah. Wow. Well, at least the excitement over the board is cheering everyone up. And, people at home are watching. And poor Doron Aloni, who is sick, but they've got their blanket and they're watching us. So they're already feeling better. You're welcome. I mean, that's what I like to hear. And, we see Bishop takes the pawn. So things are really, really heating
Computer
up.
Hates that move by Jordan.
OK, that means it's a blunder.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad. And I'm not sure it loses on the spot, but strategically it's bad. I think white just gets a big attack. He trades bishops and brings his queen up. This is by far the most natural move for white, and I think also by far the strongest. And look at that black king. It's simply because black lacks defenders, and Jordan, I think he's underestimated his opponent's attacking resources. And wow, look at this.
Oh, wow.
Only one move to stay in the game. Any black king, this is check. Black's king attacked by the white queen. Any king move loses almost instantly. White will be able to bring knights into the game, into the attack, rooks into the attack. The king is just doomed. He has to throw a pawn in the way, but it's not obvious. You just basically give back the pawn you just grabbed for free. And he has to find this, Jordan. He'll calculate for a while, but black has to push his pawn forward to 2 squares to block this check. Pawn to e5. Ooh, do you think he was going to find it, Jovanka? I think the whole reason as well is that the black queen can use a diagonal to come and block some checks.
And because of this queen move, actually, I think he will find it, because the alternative looks quite bad. If the black king steps back, then I was instinctively thinking of just going backwards with my queen to dive in and
Shall we jump in? Let's keep an eye on the players as well while we investigate the move, because it's a key moment. Black has to push his pawn forward 2 squares to block this annoying check. So if he does this, pushes the pawn forward. Just to show why the alternatives are bad, Jovanka, you mentioned this move. If the king goes
steps backwards or moves onto a light square, I thought, the queen can come and slide back. And also I was thinking of John Nunn's little motto, which was like, lose pieces, drop off. And I was thinking of targeting that bishop.
Yeah, this piece is also loose. So, for example, if black stops the invasion of the white queen by bringing the king forward, you can just leap in with your knight. 2 deadly threats. Firstly, just winning a bishop, getting greedy. Secondly, more importantly, you're going to jump in with the queen, now supported by this knight, and that would end in checkmate in a couple of moves. So the king move would lose instantly. It would lose at least a bishop, maybe even to checkmate. So the king going back would lose. You have to block. But the reason I think maybe this isn't obvious for Jordan is because after a rook takes pawn, there's still a problem. Still, the white queen is trying to break through to the king. And if you throw your queen in the way now, which is maybe the idea behind giving up this pawn, if the black queen jumps in the way, kind of reinforcing this diagonal, then white can just leap forward with the knight and hit the queen. Once the queen moves, for example, if it captures this knight, looks like black's threatening checkmate, but no, white is the one to deliver checkmate first. Rook takes pawn is a double check with the rook and queen. Double checks, you have to move your king, no matter where you go. Queen to this square, the G7 square, kiss of death, checkmate, and this ends the game. So even if he finds the best move now, Jordan, which he's spending a long, long time on, even if he finds that he has to push this pawn in the way, he's still in big trouble.
And he has to be precise as well with his defence. I still think he will find it just because I think the alternatives are not that great.
The other moves just lose instantly, and it's very basic, actually.
Yeah. So I think he'll find it just through a process of elimination, and he'll just go, OK, fine, whatever, best. This is the one I don't maybe see an immediate loss to, because often that's the best principle when you're defending such a terrible position such as this. You're like, OK, here I spot the win for white, here I don't. Here I spot a win for white, but here maybe I'm still fighting, so you choose that one. It's very much a defensive form of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, these top players that we have in the field here, all 16 of them, if you give them a position where there's only one move to find, more often than not, they will find it. As Jovanka mentioned, it's process of elimination or just pure calculation. But yeah, this one, it's not easy. The psychological blow for Jordan, maybe now just the realization that he's in big trouble, that's maybe another hurdle for him to overcome. Also spending 4 minutes on the clock, time's nearly level again, and it's always easier to be on the attacking side when you're low on time than the defensive side. So looking good for Pragg, all of those factors.
Wow. And Jordan van Foreest on 24 points. He should be qualified for the quarterfinals, so this is not dramatic for him in that sense. Praggnanandhaa, if he wins this game, will be on 21 points with one more round to go. That will probably take him inside top 8, but so many players are currently fighting for qualification to the knockout. I think the bar is slightly over to Hans Niemann's side in his game against Hare Krishna. Eric Hanson, the chances are small for him, but winning the first game today, he is in contention. The bar roughly in the middle in his game against Duda. He needs to win this game, Eric Hansen. Vedic, he needs points, definitely. Bar slightly to the middle in his game against Ding. Magnus Carlsen currently fighting against Ju Wenjun. I think it's looking good for the world champion. Liam Le, looking quite good for him in his game against Navarra. Navarra is fighting to qualify. Richard Report, bar over to his side. That's good news for him. He will need some points to feel safe. And David Anton, he also needs points to qualify. Basically, in all the games, there are players fighting for qualification.
Yeah, and some big matchups. Kaja, you mentioned it's looking good for the world champion, but which world champion? Because
that's true.
It's the chess world champion against the women's world champion.
Yeah.
Big clash. But yeah, looking good for Magnus in that one.
Yeah, let's take a quick look just at the standings, just to remind everyone about the drama here. With this round and only one more round to go. Praggnanandhaa on 18 points outside top 8, but a win here will take him to 21 points. And if he is a little bit lucky with results in the other game, that's definitely going to take him inside top 8 for now with only one round to go. I mean, it's impossible to say who's going to qualify.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not a betting man in general, but this type of field, when it's so bunched up, so close, you can't make any bets because, I mean, it could all be decided by one move, one blunder. And, I mean, talking of blunders, Van Foreest definitely making mistakes, and he's frozen.
He spent 6.5 minutes now on this move. He realizes he's on the brink of defeat already, and it's only move 22.
And is it like, even if he finds that move?
He finds the best move.
Is it still not looking great?
Still not looking good at all for black. We showed one variation. Of course, Prag was thinking in Van Foreest's time, which is a great tip, and he moves instantly, so he's up the speed. Pressure back on Van Foreest, and he can't throw his queen in the way of this diagonal, as we showed a few moments ago. If he blocks with the queen, I think that would lose on the spot. So does he have to move the black king? He does move the black king off the diagonal. But still, white's knights are flooding forward. And, okay, look at the
nice line,
bar.
right? If the knight were to join the party, as we say.
Yeah, and I think anything could join the party here. Look at white's rook in the bottom corner as well. That piece, idle, not really participating. You could swing that piece across. That looks super strong. As I mentioned, also the white knight on the left side, that could centralize itself. Oof, so many tempting options.
I love the knight centralizing itself. Do you know?
Look at Jordan, head in his hands. He thinks he's losing. He knows he's losing.
Yeah, he knows this has all gone totally wrong. I mean, the only thing that I can see, and it does require Praggnanandhaa to help him, is that the queen, the black queen, manages to magically transfer herself and plant herself on the square right next to the king. So that's the only move I can think of that can kind of...
Just shore up the defences.
Shore up defences, yeah, kind of keep the king in check.
Yeah, and the more I look at it, the more I think there's just too many tempting moves here for Prag. I was mentioning this rook doing nothing, bring it to the party, invite it in, and after a rook trade here, I mean, you can capture with anything. You can capture with your rook to try and bring it into the game. You can capture with your knight, maybe even more tempting. And yeah, this pawn is pushing forward. This knight is flooding in. This looks good. You could also, as Jovanka mentioned, bring this knight in. Looks super strong as well.
And there's a threat.
Hinting at some checks. You're threatening to play rook takes rook and then jump in with a knight check, or even flip the order. This knight check looks deadly. Another tempting option, in this position, is to just maybe bring your queen across, using this idea I'm borrowing from you earlier, Jovanka, just trying to creep into the black king position. Praggnanandhaa probably has 3 or 4 winning moves, and sometimes that is when mistakes happen. You're just spoilt for choice, and you end up thinking too long, you get indecisive, and yeah, here perfectionism is not important. Just bring a piece into the game, and Praggnanandhaa should win. So let's go back to the players. Either the queen move, the knight move, or even a rook move, and he should win this game, but spoilt for choice?
He is spoilt for choice, but having said that, you know, he's been in this type of situation before, and I'm primarily thinking of his game against Magnus Carlsen, where he was given the opportunity to win the game, and he was ruthless.
Yeah, really ruthless, and when he beat me when he was 12 years old, he was also ruthless. So yeah, Praggnanandhaa on the brink here just needs to not let the time become his nemesis. Not let himself tick under to even 1 minute, because then he might get a bit nervous. He might normally, when I get nervous, I take safety first options, and that's not what this position requires. It requires ammunition. Keep pedaling on that bike, and okay, he plays that third option that I mentioned, swinging the queen across, and I like this as well because black's queen now cannot cover that magical g6 square that the white queen wants to use. The black queen tied down to her rook.
Yeah, and actually, it's a really devastating threat that Praggnanandhaa has, just to slide the queen 2 squares forward on the diagonal and give a check to the king.
Yeah, I must admit that wouldn't have been on my radar normally, but I stole the idea from you a few moves ago, and Praggnanandhaa clearly had done the same. He spotted that this was an idea 5 moves ago or 4 moves ago, and he's played it now, and it looks equally strong.
I actually borrowed it from Magnus yesterday in his game against Praggnanandhaa, actually.
That's instructive. I mean, top players, we just borrow ideas from everywhere, right? It's all about pattern recognition, and that Magnus game yesterday was different, but it's a similar idea, and that's how we kind of... We talk about creativity, but the more research you do, the more games you watch, the more creative you become, because you have a whole bunch of ideas in your mind. And, OK, black's king comes back to where it came from, just to stop white's queen sneaking in. At the very least now, Praggnanandhaa could just repeat the position once, bring his queen back where it came from as well, just gain 10 seconds on the clock and then choose another option. But, yeah, ideally, he needs to decide now, 1 minute, 40.
And, well, speaking of Magnus Carlsen, 3 points. He won his game against the women's world champion, Ju Wen-jun. That's going to take Magnus to the same score as Liam Le.
Oh, sorry.
What is this?
What a move.
Genius.
Just to have this move on your radar is incredible. We were looking at the king side. We were looking at the black king. He just picked up his rook in the corner and threw it up the board, sacrificing it in this angle. And that rook can just be captured. But his idea is that the black rook in the corner indirectly defends its other rook in the centre of the board. I mean, what a move. He's too good for this age.
Yeah.
What a player, Pragnananda.
Just to use all the sides of the board just like that, I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to show this.
Yeah, we definitely
Let's
do.
keep an eye on the players, because this move, rook takes a7, was not on our radar. We thought, OK, it's all about the black king. We were looking at bringing the rook this way, maybe bringing this knight or this knight into the game. He just thought, OK, this rook in the corner is overloaded. To even see this, to even cross your mind, this is genius. But rook takes pawn, wins a pawn now, because now this rook, as mentioned, indirectly defends the rook in the centre. If you take the white rook, looks like a free piece, but suddenly you lose your rook in the middle, and this is just game over. The queen and the rook will combine to deliver checkmate to the black king. And what else can black try? If you don't capture the white rook, it's simply going to take this pawn and break through on the 7th rank, equally deadly. If you capture white's rook in the centre, then at the very least you can take this pawn, but now you can capture also this rook with your queen, with your knight, anything, and white is simply winning. Next move, the rook's going to take this pawn. It's just game over. And, OK, he chooses this way, but is this the lesser evil? I don't know. It just looks like checkmate coming. All white needs to do now is flick in a check, and this is going to be game over. The king defenseless. Pragnananda about to win an amazing victory. Look at that evaluation bar, +7. Just give this check. You can maybe even bring... OK, you can't bring your knight in. There is a threat of the rook coming down and harassing your king, so you need to be a bit quick. But I think this check, I mean, it's the first one that came to my mind. Diagonal checks with the queens and no hiding spot. For example, queen check, the king will move across, and very minimum, you just drop back. Now, knight check is coming. It's game over.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
16-year-old Pragnananda, a month ago, he wrote history when he became the youngest player to win a game against Magnus Carlsen after he became world champion. This time, he is fighting for qualification in a super strong tournament and on his way. Playing genius.
Yeah, this is true genius. I mean, that rook move, I think even if I had half an hour, I'm not sure I would have even considered it. And it was super strong, as we see with the evaluation bar, just immediately winning on the spot.
Yeah, it's just very creative. I mean, like I said, you know, it's so easy just to be focused on where the action is and then just to kind of take that step back and find a different move, but with still very much the same kind of point, but on a different side of the board, is just amazing. And following David's rule, diagonal checks with the queen are very, very difficult to parry. We learned that yesterday, and it was true.
Yeah, and it's true here because this check cannot be blocked by the black queen. If the black queen does slide across and offer a trade, then white's rook will actually give itself up with a nasty check, and the black king will be distracted, the black queen will fall. So this is just winning on the spot, and it's all about that full board vision. OK, wow, OK, putting his queen in the corner, that's not what I expected. I thought he would just bring his rook back and stop this check, but Pragnananda has this one covered. The check from the black rook looks like checkmate, but no, the knight drops back and it's guarded by its rook at the top of the board. I mean, Pragnananda, he used all the angles. He used this a7 square on the left side. He's using the corner on this side. He's dropping his knight back to the bottom of the board. He's literally played on all 4 sides of the board in order to win this game. And it's simply a checkmate threat from the white queen and white rook over the next couple of moves. And what can black do? Black's rook is just, I mean, not participating anymore because white's rook guarding its knight at the bottom of the board.
You asked the question what to do. My solution is resign.
Yeah, I think we'll see 1 or 2 more moves from Jordan. He never really resigns, from my experience. OK, the black king trying to find a safe haven amongst its own pawns. Logical. But now, OK, there must be a killer blow. What is the finishing touch now for Prag? 37 seconds.
And a super important win for Hans Niemann, taking him to, isn't it, 21 points, I think Hans Niemann will now have. It's looking good for the 18-year-old American to qualify for the knockout stage.
And, OK, some queen checks available to white, very least. Again, just because I'm a pragmatist, I would bring my queen back to the centre of the board. But, OK, he gives a check, allowing the black king to hide on the side.
Okay, what is his idea? Because now black threatens checkmate in one. Rook takes knight will be checkmate. Whoa, okay, crazy tactics. Pragg is just showing off now with some nice geometry. And I think we're about to see a result because king takes rook now. It's a check. King takes rook would walk into a knight fork. White's knight will plant itself in the center, checking the black king and winning the black queen. This is just one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen, let alone on the tour. It's just a masterpiece. It's just fireworks non-stop. Every move is a really crazy, unexpected blow.
It's a lesson in calculation, right, and tactical motifs. I mean, that rook check and the rook takes pawn, sacrificing material and all to get this particular knight fork. And we are definitely going to see it. And I think I saw a little mini fist pump from Pragnananda.
And we have a result. This knight fork winning the black queen ends in Van Foreust's resignation.
I guess it's applause.
Yeah, I mean...
To Pragnananda.
Yeah.
We throw the coins.
Yeah.
And we say, well done. I know, it's incredible.
Wow. David Howell, Grandmaster David Howell, just said it. One of the most beautiful games he has seen. Young Pragnananda, he is 16 years old, and he showed us some true genius in this game, David. You have to just take us through it.
Yeah, and I just want to show there are so many moments, but I want to just show the end of this game because it was at this point I was advocating, just drop the rook back, guard the first rank, stop any black checks, but Pragg said no. He wants to use every single square, every corner of the board to win this game. He brought his queen into the corner, now huge threats of some checks against the black king, and after black gave a check, he saw he could just drop back his knight. Knight to the e1 square, guarded by the white rook, of course, now just stopping any threats against the white king too. And because black's king is the more vulnerable of the two, it had to make a run for it. It stepped forward, but here, again, Pragg not taking any safety first options, calculating to the end of the game, he saw that he could give a check, and when the black king ran to the side, he could sacrifice his rook. He already sacrificed one rook, sacrificing the other rook now, and the idea is after king takes rook, of course, there's a knight check, a knight fork, and this was also how the game ended. After the rook sacrificed itself, black tried to deny this gift originally, tried to reject it, but after another check, we saw king takes rook, and the final touch, knight forking the king and winning the queen next move. Just magic, pure magic from Pragg.
Wow. We're all just stunned by the 16-year-old, but we have to keep following the drama here in the Charity Cup. David Anton, he is on 18 points. He is fighting to qualify, and he basically needs to win this game, and it's looking good.
It's looking very good for him. If we jump into the position, do a quick count as well, it's equal pieces, but the pawns are not level. Black has one extra pawn, but more importantly, white's king lacks pawn shelter. Black's king, safe as houses, guarded by its own pawns there, and white's king, if you look at the black bishops as well, they're pointing towards it. Black's queen in the vicinity. It's looking very good. And okay, a trade of knights, that doesn't help too much. Also, black has this pawn on f3, only 2 squares away from promoting to a new queen. So that will act as a distraction while black goes for the real target, the white king. And Jovanka, any chance of white saving this? Looking unlikely to me.
Yeah, it's looking unlikely as well. I mean, the only chance that I can see, and it will be one fine day, but it might happen, you never know, we've seen stranger things, is if Lei Ting-Jie manages the swap of queens. If she gets her king safe, then maybe there's some chance, because she does have some passed pawns along on the right side.
Yeah, if the queens come off suddenly, she's right back in the game. So you would usually expect white to block this check from the black queen by sliding her queen across, because queen trades will favour white, or at least save white. But the problem is, black will say no. If the queen slides across, the black queen can come down to the first rank. And
exactly. So it's never going to happen. So, OK, the king moves into the corner.
Oof, hiding in plain sight there.
Yeah, it's got
really
no
open.
cover. And it's tempting just to introduce the bishop into the fun. And that's what David Anton has done.
Another pawn is going to drop.
Yeah, we've got to snatch that one off, right? Just because you can.
It's too tempting. The pawn next to the black queen, it's up for grabs in 2 different ways. If you could take a pawn with check, you might as well. There we go. And the king moves. Notice how the white rook is actually covering the second rank, so there's no checkmate yet. The white rook stopping any checkmating ideas immediately, but now the queen goes back where she came from, and now Alice, the a-pawn, the black a-pawn, is actually going to march down and maybe deliver the killer blow. And Yeah, the white king just too open. In positions with queens on,
Yeah.
it's just hopeless when your king is this open.
Yeah,
vulnerable.
well, Lei Ting-Jie is desperately trying to scramble some defenders around her king, but now with Alice advancing one square forward, it's looking really, really bad. It's going to go. She's going to carry on as well to the A3, to the A2, and.
Lei Ting-Jie, though, she is a good defender. She nearly saved a miraculous kind of position against Magnus. We saw that yesterday, and
She's got
some
8
chances.
seconds, 7 seconds,
Oof,
4
okay.
seconds. Okay.
5 seconds, and at least she creates a threat. Okay, that's a good start. She's using the white bishop and the white queen on the c-file to attack a pawn near the black king. Problem is that pawn could maybe just move, and I don't really see any follow-up for white or the queen trade. We said it would favour white, but white lost another pawn. White's 2 pawns down, and black's pawns are so close to promotion. That pawn on the a-file and that pawn on the
2
f-file.
seconds. She's running out of time. Okay,
She made that move with 1 second left. Allowing the queen trade. She wants it to be on her terms, but unfortunately, okay, the queen trade happens. I thought black's rook could come in and deliver checkmate, but okay, there we go. We have a result, I think. It looks like David Anton took the win.
And that is super important for David Anton, taking him to 21 points. And he is now in the fight to qualify for the knockout stage. Wow, you guys. I mean, so many people will now be fighting to qualify.
Yeah. I mean, we did promise like a thriller of a day, and the players are delivering. You know, no one around that the 8th mark is safe. No one at all, and that's very rare that happens.
Yeah, so many decisive results every round. I mean, I thought some players would just try to play for safety to secure their place in the top 8, but that's just not happening. Nobody playing it safe the whole tournament, just taking risks on every turn. And this game as well, equally wild. We see white having the queen, black having 2 rooks in return. So queen versus 2 rooks, it's roughly balanced, but usually it depends on the king's safety of the side that doesn't have the queen. And here, the reason Eric is winning, or at least doing very well, is because the black king is too open. The white queen and the white knight together are the ideal attacking combo, and they will team up. And okay, what a flashy move from Duda. Trying to trick Eric, that rook is poisoned. If you take that rook with the white pawn, the black knight will actually capture, and it will be a knight fork, similar to how we saw in Prague's game.
I actually thought that Eric would use that tactical motif and advanced his b-pawn because he tried to decoy the knight.
Yeah, I guess he just wants to keep his second rank controlled, so there's no counter-attack against the white king.
He might get a second shot.
Yeah, that white b-pawn as well. That will act as a distraction, while the true target, black's king, will be the big issue.
And we did start the day by saying Eric Hanson, he has to win all his games to have a slight chance to qualify. He did win the first one. It's looking really, really good for him in the second as well. He's in contention as well. Jan-Krzysztof Duda in with, 19 points. He was almost safe before the start of today, but he's suddenly in trouble.
Yeah, nobody's safe almost.
Yeah.
And okay, the
Hang on a
queen.
second.
What's happening, Ivanka? The queen attacking one black rook, the other. Oh wow!
Oh no! A huge blunder by Eric Hansen.
Heartbreak for Eric Hansen. He got his queen trapped. Look at this. The black knight covers any escape square for the white queen, and the black knight also defends both the black rooks. Turn around. You saw it first, Ivanka. It took me a while because it's not obvious. Eric missed it. And there we go. I think we're about to see a result because the white queen loses herself for just a rook. Black will emerge a whole rook up. Heartbreak for the Canadian.
I think Eric Hansen just let his clock run out. Look at that. He was so close to winning against a super strong player, Jan-Krzysztof Duda. A blunder in time trouble. I think he had 2 seconds left on the clock when he made that move. And look at Jan-Krzysztof Duda as well. He knows he got super lucky. This result probably secures him a spot in the quarterfinal. Oh, wow. It's difficult to look at players right now, right? Eric Hansen.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, right? He thought that he was on track for winning his second game of the day, and he had a fantastic position, and he just let his concentration slip for one moment, and he put his queen on the worst square possible and got it trapped. But I mean, in fairness, it's very rare that a queen gets trapped on that kind of square. You know, you can get
Almost
trapped
in the centre of the board.
Yeah, exactly. You get trapped in the corner, it gets trapped on the edge of the board, never in the middle.
Wow. Chess can be so brutal. And what happened here, David, for Eric to lose the game and a chance to qualify for the knockouts?
Yeah, we just have to show the final position, the final move. That's where it all changed. And White actually has a winning advantage. White's maybe best or most simple move is to bring the queen up to the top of the board, deliver a check, and go on the attack against Black's king. But actually, any move is pretty much winning here for Eric. And that is the most brutal thing about it. You could slide across, attacking this pawn. You could step back, also attacking this pawn. And Eric, unfortunately, chose the only real bad square for the queen, planting it here. The idea is simple, attacking this rook. But the problem is, once this rook moves, we see why we talk about centralized knights so much. This knight covers 8 squares in the center of the board, and it also covers every possible escape square for the white queen. There's literally nowhere the queen can go. This rook is defended by the black knight, this rook is defended by the black knight, this square defended by the black knight, and also this one. And yeah, it's just heartbreak. He would have had to give up his queen for one of the 2 rooks, but as mentioned, this would just see Black with an extra rook and a simple win. Heartbreak for Eric, and so close. That's the thing, small margins, only one move decides it at this level.
You see it there, 8 minutes. The next and the final round in the preliminaries will start. We're going to follow David Anton against Pragnananda. They are both fighting to qualify. David Anton is currently in 8th place. Pragnananda is currently in 7th place, but they have Richard Report 1 point behind them in 9th. Vedic is chasing them down. This round is going to be so intense, you guys, so we have to just calm our nerves and take a quick commercial break.
Tomorrow, cities will be home to over 2/3 of the world's children. Are we ready to design the services children need in these cities of the future? Tomorrow, the workforce will be filled with jobs that don't exist today. Are we ready to equip young people with the skills they'll need to succeed? More women and girls will be voicing their stand for change. Are we listening to millions of girls about the issues that matter to them and taking action? A free and fair education is the goal, but not guaranteed. Are we ready to provide accessible opportunities for children to learn in new and different ways? Temperatures will continue to rise and ice caps continue to melt, affecting the homes and lives of millions of children. Are we exploring new technologies that can lower pollution levels and deliver clean water? Tomorrow, millions will flee from violence, poverty, and emergencies. Over half will be children. Are we ready to use real-time information to respond and protect them? Tomorrow, threats to the survival and health of children will keep coming. Are we ready for new ways to deliver life-saving assistance? Together, we are developing and applying innovations that address the needs of children everywhere, because each and every child is our tomorrow. Are we ready for tomorrow?
Only a few minutes left to the final round in the preliminaries in the Charity Cup. So many players are fighting for qualification to the knockout stage, and we are joined by our stats oracle, Ty. What is happening? Who can qualify and who's out?
So Hanson is out and Hari Krishna are out. Everyone else we talked about at the beginning still has a chance.
Wow. So for Pragnananda and David Anton, they face each other now in the final round. What's the situation for those two?
Well, at this point, it's looking like 21 probably won't be enough.
Okay.
But 22 probably will. Still not quite guaranteed, but if they draw, there's a decent chance they'll both be in. If it's decisive, whoever loses could be in a lot of trouble. Prague in particular has slightly worse takes, which could matter. But a draw is pretty... Well, no, actually. Yeah, okay, a draw is pretty good, but it's no guarantee. If they draw each other and both get to 22, Anton's maybe 95% and Prague is maybe 80%. But those bottom three are all looking to win their games. And if more than one of them does, 22 gets a lot less safe. And tie breaks will come into play at that point.
So basically you're saying that Richard Rapport in 9th place now, playing Liam Le, he has to win that game, basically. Vedic playing Magnus Carlsen, he needs to win that game. And Pragnananda and David Anton, well, they're not safe with the draw, and Pragnananda is the one that should go for the win in that one?
Yeah, I would say so. If they draw, they're relatively safe. They can... But they have to be careful of Rapport or Navarro winning games, or Vedic.
And actually, even, David Navarro as well, on 18 points. But is it possible for him, though? Because either Prague or Anton will gain at least 1 point.
It's possible for him because he has good tie breaks, so he has to win, and he needs the Anton-Prague game to be decisive, and then he could pass the loser.
Wow. I mean, we probably say this every time, but can you remember it being this tight?
Usually I can understand what the tiebreak situations would look like going into the last round, and here I'm just trusting the model. It tells me people have chances, so I have to then figure out what their chances are. Navarro is eliminated if Anton and Prague draw, so his chances rely on beating one of them in tiebreaks if that game is decisive.
Wow.
And of course, he would have to win his own.
A crazy situation before the last round. Ty, thank you so much for your calculations and for joining us.
Absolutely.
Well, it's about to start, you guys, the final round in the preliminaries. And David Anton will have the white pieces. Here we go.
Yeah, I was just looking as well. We could end up in a situation with 4 or 5 players on 22 points, and it's just about their head-to-head scores. So head-to-head is important. That's why this game, both players will want to win, despite the fact they're on level points, despite the fact they're just inside top 8. And, OK, a quiet start to this game. It's a Queen's Pawn opening, not the London system, not the Queen's Gambit, just David Anton there, just pushing a pawn, building a solid wall of pawns. So maybe his strategy, David Anton, is to just survive the opening,
keep an eye on the other results, and then decide what to do. And Pragg copies it. He copies the setup. It's complete symmetry so far. White's bishop now developing. White ready to castle the king already at this early stage. And yeah, a cagey start. Pragg, what's he going to do? He looks full of energy, rocking back and forth. I mean, it must be early hours of the morning there already.
Right,
2,
yeah.
3 a.m. And yeah, he's clearly full of energy.
And he must be high on adrenaline after that incredible game.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, especially because Jordan perhaps wasn't someone that he'd had pegged down that he was going to beat. And now he's realising that if he manages to secure a point at least, that he could qualify for the quarterfinals. And that would be a dream come true.
Oh, absolutely.
And the only thing is that it can be hard occasionally to come back down to earth, just kind of play with a stable mindset after such an amazing victory like his last game. Sometimes you're still carried away. Sometimes you just think, OK, luck's on my side. You get a bit too artistic, a bit too complacent, and chess, things can backfire. You've got to be objective still. So Pragg, in a way, he needs to just forget the last game and just think, OK, it's all about this one shot, this one penalty kick, this one opportunity. And if the chance comes to play for a win, try and seize it. If it's just level, playing for a draw, maybe that's a decent result too. He's still got good odds to qualify. But yeah, so far, he's playing very sensibly as black. Still a very standard position. I think they call this the Collie system.
I was going to ask you the name. I think it's the Collie, right?
I think it's
I
the
always
Collie.
get them confused, Torre and the Collie. But yeah, this
Torre is when you bring the bishop out. Collie is when you lock the bishop in.
Yeah.
So yeah, this opening, I must admit, when I was young, it was the bane of my life. Everyone played this against me when I had black, and I didn't know what to do. White system, it might look innocuous, it might look really innocent and kind of unimpressive, but there are ideas, and we'll talk about these ideas as this opening progresses. White is the first to castle, black now ready to do the same. And,
Didn't our good friend Simon Williams win a very nice game?
He's won a
in the
few.
British with this particular variation as white. So it looks like it's a very quiet line, you know, quite systematic, playing moves by hand, you know, not too much thought, but it does have some venom.
Yeah, against Ravi Harrier 2019.
That's right, yeah.
And yeah, the whole reason White goes for this setup is because actually that dark square bishop, White's bishop on the B2 square, is on a nice diagonal, and that diagonal is likely to open up at some point. At the very least, with White, you can hop into the center, to the E5 square, with the White knight. And yeah, some very kind of specific ideas. It tends to be just pattern recognition here. Black tries to cut across those ideas, of course, later on. But yeah, we talk about the 1B3 opening as well, and White's basically done that, but a different version of it. White's bishop, that dark square bishop, look out for it. It might be the decider. It might be the key piece later on. I'm just loving fianchettoed bishops in general. And Pragg, meanwhile, does castle. He's got a healthy setup as well with black. He occupies the center with some pawns. He still has to answer the question of that black light squared bishop. But once he does that, he's got a healthy, playable position at least. I'm surprised the evaluation bar so far in White's favour because it looks sensible.
No, yeah, I mean, this is still very much mainline theory, so...
OK, and the pawn just steps forward. Again, very normal, very thematic, stopping the black knight from jumping in to the white half. And there we go. Black is playing copycat, doing the same with his light squared bishop that White has done with his dark squared bishop.
And Jan-Krzysztof Duda and Dingleren have played a draw to secure their spot in the quarterfinals. Well, most likely, but I would say they have secured their spot. They're both now on 23 points after that draw. A sensible time to take a quick draw.
Yeah, and maybe, is that the first quick draw we've seen in the whole Challenge
Yeah, I think it is.
Yes,
That's
but
impressive.
it's going to impact their fighting chess
Ooh,
index.
that's true.
We did see that Magnus and Ding were tormented by the quick
true.
draw because,
Yeah.
you know...
The algorithm punishes you. Yeah.
It does punish you. And anyhow, there's a decision to be made on the board for Pragnanda. Which way should he recapture that pawn? With the bishop, with the pawn? Both sides have their pros and they also have their disadvantages. And whilst we're waiting for a decision to be made, well, we have some selfies I wanted to show you. The first one comes from Floey, who's also feeling unwell. They got tested positive for COVID only a few hours ago. Thanks for keeping me company during isolation. Oh, sorry to hear that, Chloe. I do hope that it's a relatively, it's one of those COVID situations we don't suffer.
Yeah, and that you get well very soon. But if you are in isolation for a few days, well, the chess keeps going all the way until Saturday. Tomorrow is the quarterfinals. We then have semifinals and then a 2-day final to finish this off and find out who the winner is.
Yeah.
Okay, and Prag chooses to capture towards the centre with a pawn. You mentioned pros and cons, Jovanka, and that was very much the case. And okay, the one con to capturing back with your pawn towards the centre is that now black's pawns are getting undermined by the white pawns. If you captured back with the bishop earlier, you can play with pieces. Now you're reliant on playing with pawns. So Pragnananda choosing the most ambitious option, but maybe the least solid option. So now it's very clear what David Anton wants to do. He wants to fight against these black pawns in the centre. So Prag needs to develop his pieces. He wants to be ready for when some pressure really does arise against his pawns. And who do you prefer here? I know it's early stages. I generally prefer white's flexibility, but I can see why maybe some players would like having these extra central pawns in the middle of the board.
Yeah, I'm one of these players who like having their central pawns. The way that I handle them is I basically don't take a decision with them for as long as possible. I just sit there and enjoy the space for as long as I can. So I will just develop all my pieces, connect the rooks, and then I wait and I wait and I wait. And I find that people can't handle that waiting too long, and they make mistakes because it's human.
It's human to get impatient and actually want to take action, to do something. And I do the same, Jovanka, just on the other side. I like to play against these pawns and just wait and wait and wait until they become weaknesses or commit, and then leave weak squares behind. And meanwhile, a non-committal move from Pragnananda in terms of his pieces and his pawns in the centre, but he just improves his rook. Look at that black rook that's just moved. It's eyeing up this white dark square bishop. I already highlighted that as the potentially key piece, and he's just putting pressure on the pawn in front of it, on the b3 square, and the piece behind. So a really nice move that from Pragnananda. We saw it in the last game. If his pieces have energy, he tends to be happy. And that black rook, very, very happy where it is right now. And David Anton, meanwhile, we've seen a lot of decisive results from him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's very high up on the Fighting Chess Index after this tournament. Just a very entertaining player, a very creative player I've found. I've played him many times and my results have been good, but I don't think I've ever predicted more than one or two of his moves in a row. Just every turn he surprises me. He's got a very unorthodox way of thinking about the game, of setting problems. He's very tricky as well, calculates well. But sometimes if you play classically against him, just trying to blunt his creativity, he gets frustrated there. So, okay, a semi-threat on the board maybe. White, look how the bishops are both pointing towards the black king. And the white queen there teaming up with her bishop on this diagonal, and Pragnananda blocks things up. Quick capture in the centre. We talked about pawns and not committing them. He's made that commitment, Jovanka.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one?
I don't like it.
For
white.
For white, okay.
For white, I mean, there was no need. There were pieces to be developed. There were rooks to join in the game. There was no need to rush with something like this.
Okay, so we should jump in to show why black isn't losing a pawn here, maybe, because actually it looks like black has just thrown a pawn away. This square, white is a pawn up, it's defended twice by a knight and bishop, and it's only attacked twice as well by black's pieces. But look at this, Pragnananda jumping in with his knight, and now if knight takes knight, pawn recaptures. If David Anton gets greedy here and captures in the centre, we see an indirect attack by the black queen, and he plays bishop takes pawn, check, throwing his bishop away, but winning the black bishop, and suddenly attack on the rook. Also, the king, very vulnerable. But look at this. Surprising decision by David Anton, but maybe quite a strong one. Instead of taking with his knight, he's captured with his bishop instead. And after this trade, he's just going to rely on these pawns running forward. It's all about flank pawns here, the B and C pawns against the central pawns. And I don't know, personally, I prefer the central pawns, but it takes a while for them to get motoring. And okay, this one, it's anything but safe chess from both sides. It's anything but a draw. For example, if we do see white stepping forward with a pawn, black doing the same, I mean, I have no idea whose pawn chain is stronger. These three connected or these two in the centre. There's more at stake for the white side, maybe, because the central pawns look super scary, but you can block them. You can stop their advance. The knight covers the square, the bishop to
and the queen as well. And no more advance, no more adventure for this pawn in the middle.
Yeah, and in light of that, I was thinking maybe Praggnanandhaa has actually made a mistake by retreating his bishop on that square, because I mean, yeah, it's tricky. It's a really complicated position. I mean, White has all the long-term trumps because those passed pawns that he has on the left side, they're going to be incredibly powerful, difficult to stop. Whilst I don't know,
it's very tense.
It's really.
I guess you're hesitating because it's just so hard to evaluate, and the players, I don't think they'll be sure how to evaluate either. At least Black can maybe do some knight jumping. You can jump towards the White king. Yeah, it's just really, really unclear. Black has the bishop pair, but it's maybe less of a factor than the current pawn structure. White with these strong pawns, of course, and Black with these guys. Mm-hmm. It's definitely warming up this battle. And let's go back to the players. I just like the fact that they are both taking risks and playing for the maximum on every turn. And David Anton, another thing I mentioned about him, or that I want to mention, is that he loves his imbalances. And there we go. He moves his rook across. Instead of throwing the white pawns forward first, he wants to prevent, or at least delay, the advance of Black's pawns in the centre. And there we go. Just hydrating. Very sensible in a high-stress situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm guessing that Praggnanandhaa probably will copy as well. You know, White says, no, you can't advance your pawn. And he will say, yes, let me do it. Mm-hmm. And let me try to get that pawn pushed, at least.
Move the Black rook one square across to the centre.
And I'm sitting here chatting to Ty to just, get updated on these, stats for who's going to make it through. So the draw between Duda and Ding, it did secure Duda's spot in the quarterfinals, and it's actually good news for these two. Mm. So that draw, if this game is now a draw, then both of these players will have an 89% chance to go through. It's going to be a draw here will then be bad news for Vedic. It's going to mean he's probably out, but I don't think these players will be aware. I mean, they can see the results from other games, but if they're aware that now a draw gives them very big chances to qualify, I don't know if they're aware of that.
Yeah, maybe they need Ty on speed dial just to find out the stats. But yeah, on a serious note though, I mean, psychologically, it's so hard. I've been in these situations myself, and do you even want to know the other results? Yeah. Do you focus on the board and just try and play the best moves and take things as they come? Because if you're thinking too much about the results, if you're thinking, oh, a draw might give me an 80, 90% chance of qualifying, you might take a passive option. Playing for the draw is actually the worst way to get it. You should just play good moves, play for the win, and at some point you'll get to repeat the position, or you'll get to sacrifice something and just kind of swap off all the material. So yeah, sometimes kind of thinking too much about the result can backfire. All of my most heartbreaking defeats have been because I was thinking about the result too much.
Yeah, I have to say, whenever I've been in this particular situation, I found that the best approach is just to focus on my game. Yeah. Forget the others. You have no control on what other people do. The only thing you can control is how many good moves you make, and you can only do that if you're fully focused on the game.
I can relate from playing golf. Mm-hmm. So it's always a goal in golf to lower your handicap, so to always play a better round than the previous round. And as soon as I see, ooh, I have a lot of points now, if I play this next shot really nicely, I can lower my handicap, and then it's out in the woods every single time. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, these two players, credit to them, they look super focused. I doubt that they've got kind of other screens up, just kind of looking at those other games, looking at the other results, which they're allowed to do. It looks like they're very much focused on this position specifically. And as expected, White has built this nice pawn chain on the left side, Black in the centre also trying to mobilise. And this also looks like the type of position, Jovanka, I don't know if you agree, but the evaluation bar, it might swing side to side. And it's just really, it's just unbalanced, uncompromising, because the pawn structure is so weird, because the piece kind of combination as well is just slightly unorthodox with the Black bishops, but then they're feeling a bit they're feeling like bystanders right now.
Yeah, especially the dark squared bishop, is just jammed in by its own pawn, and also White's lovely pawn chain is controlling a lot of nice squares, and it's not entirely clear what the plan is. I mean, yeah, White will, of course, mobilise the knights, and then there will be, and then. And the same goes for Black. Yes, develop the light square bishop, but what next? Not easy, and I think you just have to almost take this position on a move-by-move basis.
Yep, agreed. Fully agreed. And it will come down to kind of a boiling point later where it's purely about calculation and who can push their pawns forward successfully and whether you can prevent your opponent's pawns marching forward successfully. But right now is kind of the calm before the storm, where it's still slightly cagey. Black there just pushing a pawn, covering some squares, giving the black king some breathing space, getting that pawn off the diagonal of the white bishop and queen. White, meanwhile, maybe going to try and improve the rooks, improve the knights, as Jovanka mentioned. It's going to just enter a kind of a mini manoeuvring phase, and then it will explode, and then we'll see those pawn pushes, and then we'll see some real chaos. And yeah, still, if I had to predict, I think a draw extremely unlikely in this one, even if it helps both players in the standings.
All right, well, it's so typical in this round 15 that the games are just sort of waiting for each other to see what's happening in the others. The bars have been slightly to the middle, but in the game between Liam Le and Richard Rapport, the bar has slightly gone to Richard Rapport's side. He's fighting for a win to qualify. And if he wins that game, well, it could mean Magnus Carlsen with a win against Vedic could clinch the #1 spot. But that's going to go down to the Sonnenberger, the tie-break thing. You know, it would be impossible to calculate for us.
Where's my glittery calculator?
I know, we forgot it this time.
Oh, dear.
Need to get that back.
We'll have to rely on Ty to let us know, keep us informed on stats like that. But yeah, I mean, head-to-head is hard to calculate, especially if there's more than 2 players on the same score. Yeah, I mean, number of wins we can count, but the players, they won't necessarily know their opponent's results. Yeah, it's really complex. That's why it's just better to focus on the game. And yeah, we get access, of course, to the evaluation bars, and despite the fact the other players can check in on the other games, they won't have that ability, so they won't know how the other games are going. It's definitely a distraction to look over at another game, try to evaluate it, try to work out what's going on. And okay, meanwhile, nice move from David Anton, just sliding the white rook across. He's hinting that maybe he's relying on the white c-pawn, the most far advanced pawn for him, to do the damage later, to push that guy forward.
Yeah.
But then again, the white queen maybe needs to reroute itself, getting in the way of her rook. And okay, Prag just bringing his knight to the center. Another idea we discussed briefly. And maybe as well as jumping into the f4 square, where black knights are really dangerous, the white king will start to sweat. Also, the black queen has opened up a diagonal. Maybe it wants to use that one a bit later on.
No, I was just smiling because you used the word distraction, and that's like a nice link into the next selfie that I'd love to show you. Female nurse says that they're trying their best to read even just one page, but I can't resist watching you guys. Sorry for being a distraction, female nurse. And I hope you're able to multitask and enjoy the chess, our commentary, and also read a book.
Yeah, maybe studying.
Yeah.
I don't think we should get blamed. It's the players. It's their fault. They keep playing exciting games. I mean, the standings are so close, so tight.
No, I can take the blame. I'll be happy to be someone's distraction. That's what I was going to say, but that sounded a bit strange.
All right, well, these two are in deep thought. Clock's ticking for David Anton, going down to 9 minutes on the clock. And we don't know if these two players are aware that a draw is good news and is going to probably clinch them a spot in the knockout stage. Does it seem like on their play that they're just going for the win, both of them?
Yes. A draw is far from both players' minds. Maybe they just thought, OK, winning this game will guarantee it.
Yeah, that's true.
So why not go for the win? Even Prag with black, we've seen him beat Magnus Carlsen with black in the past. He doesn't really care. White, black, it doesn't matter when he's... well, it doesn't matter to the young Indian wonderkin. So.
And just according to Ty, it's amazing to just be able to sit here and talk to him. Liam Le has much better Sonnenberger, the tie breaks, than Magnus. So he's definitely going to be the winner of the preliminaries. Impressive by Liam Le. There is no way Magnus can catch up with him. Even with a win, they will be on the same score. But Liam Le has better tie breaks.
Yeah, and it's a serious advantage, actually, to be at top of the table.
Oh, yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah, we have seen it before. But at first, you're thinking, no, it's not a big deal. But, I mean, the ability to choose colours when you're playing the match and when you're playing tie breaks, I mean, we've seen it being super instrumental, especially if it came down to Armageddon. where one player was able to say, hey, I'm going to choose white, I'm going to have that extra time, and I'm just going to win the game on the basis of that.
And on paper, I guess you have a slightly easier route to the final, maybe if it's according to ratings, according to the top 8 standings. And yeah, Liam deserves that, because holding that game earlier that we saw against Magnus, I mean, that was just some of the most tenacious defence we've seen in the tournament. So yeah, well played to Liam for winning the prelims. But yeah, back to this game, and David Anton spending a significant amount of time, I think, on this move, and he's right to do so, because it's a critical moment. And Black's knight, if it jumps in, I mean, it has eyes on both sides of the board, but if it jumps in, then White has some serious questions to answer. So big moment now for David Anton.
Yeah.
And earlier I thought it was easier for White to play, maybe just for this move at least. It's not that case. It's really tricky to find a move.
And he does make a move, improving his knight. And you'll have to bear with me. I also want to show another warning that Mariana Lopez's cat has for David Anton and Pragananda. Too much thinking makes you go sleepy. Well, makes her cat go sleepy.
I know the feeling. We're going to sleep many times at the chessboard.
Yeah. Well, we do know Vedic sitting in India, same as Pragnananda. It's super late for them. Vedic did tell us that he did have a nap in his chair during one of these days in the preliminaries.
Yeah, it's better to nap between the rounds, at least, than during the rounds.
Very true.
And 2 players that are definitely not napping are these 2, because things are indeed, as predicted, heating up. And there are tactics all over the place now. It looks like Black is giving up a pawn, but he's actually going for a checkmating attack against the White king. And the checkmating attack has been signalled by the advance of this knight. With White, we say the knight on f5 will thrive, and f4 is the kind of counterpart square to that. So the Black knight now pointing towards this White king. And if White gets greedy, which he might do, because I'm struggling to see what else, but if he jumps forward and takes this pawn, it looks like a free pawn, but after a capture, maybe after the knight takes, Black is going to try and bring his queen out. So it's a double attack. And okay, we haven't seen this, but he's threatening checkmate on this square using the queen and knight, but he's also hitting the White knight in the middle of the board with his rook and with his queen. And a tricky move from David Anton instead. This looks a bit scary for White, so he avoided this. He gave a check. And now the question is, which way to go? Do you go to the safer corner, or do you go towards the centre of the board? Centre of the board looks a bit scary because you're out in the open, and later on there might be some knight checks. But equally, if you go to the corner, then you have to calculate what happens, for example, after knight takes pawn, because now there's no time to go for the checkmating idea that I pointed out, because White has a sneaky checkmate idea himself, a checkmate threat of knight takes pawn. For example, if the queen comes out, knight takes pawn is actually check. It's not just a fork, it's checkmate as well. So, yeah, David Anton just calculating. He's trying to give Prag a really difficult decision. And Jovanka, if you had to choose, if you had 30 seconds, which way?
I would put my king at the edge of the board. And,
go in the corner.
Yeah, I would go in the corner. I would allow the capture, because one thing that I'm a little bit afraid of for White is if you just take everything off and you give up your rook.
Wow.
Maybe even give up the rook.
Okay.
And the idea is after rook takes rook, trap the bishop.
And now you could push the pawn forward and cage this piece. And okay, he hasn't gone this way. This way looked very tempting to me as well. I think instinct-wise I would have done that, but obviously we can't rely purely on instinct. We have to calculate as well, and Prag has decided it's safer in the centre. At least now the king guards this pawn, which, as we showed, is loose in some variations. So now, again, knight takes pawn is very, very well met by taking, and now threatening this nasty checkmate. The queen comes out, but also keeping an eye on the White knight. I think this would win a piece. And big question for David Anton is, how is he going to get his bishop out? How is he going to extract it? Because it's almost trapped. If the black pawn steps forward, there's no escape. Also, some threats against this pawn, some threats of black pushing in the centre. Looks like it's going in Prag's favour, unless David Anton comes up with something special now.
All right. And in our fundraiser for UNICEF, we are getting closer to $70,000. Fantastic, you guys. And keep donating on chess24.com/donate. And the auction for a unique and exclusive chess lesson with Grandmaster David Howell. Only 26 minutes left now to make your bid. The current bid, $726, which is amazing, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to improve your chess with David and ask him about all his secrets and anything you might wonder.
Yeah, I don't really give lessons nowadays, so this is a bit of a break.
Yeah.
And an opportunity. So hopefully it will be fun and instructive for anyone who chooses to bid.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, White's bishop coming back in the evaluation bar, slightly over to left to Prag's side now. And that looks like a natural move to me. The bishop keeps an eye on both sides of the board, but there is still a possibility that that bishop will get hit at some point by a black pawn.
It's tempting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's tempting just to prepare the hit at least, or if I were feeling not so courageous, I would just develop my queen.
Yeah.
Just put her onto a good square and start eyeing up the white king.
Yeah, the black queen, it can't come and threaten checkmate anymore because the white knight is still on the f3 square. So, yeah, I guess you want to bring it to f6, Jovanka.
That's right, yeah.
Line it up on this f-file. Looks very, very tempting. I mean, inching closer to the white king is always a good idea with the queen now, especially when the black knight sits so nicely in white's half. You could make an argument for maybe pushing a pawn or improving the black light squared bishop, but yeah, I think queen out by far the most natural.
Yeah.
And Prag, we saw him in the last game winning that kind of that masterpiece, that work of art. We saw him going for the opponent's king, one-track mind, but using all sides of the board, all angles. And
wait 1 second.
He's taking risks. Do you like that one, Jovanka? Is there something wrong with it?
I have no idea. It just wasn't on my radar whatsoever. Gosh.
Because now there is an opportunity, if black wants to be greedy, to go grabbing material.
I guess that's his plan.
Is that his plan? Or does he want to just maintain this pawn as a wedge, just kind of that thorn in white's side that we mentioned? Okay, we have got to jump in because there was a huge reaction from you, Jovanka. It was on my radar, but you know me and my commitment issues. I didn't really want to touch this pawn because it looks so good, protected by its fellow pawn in the centre, but Prag went for it. He's not worried. And now the white queen had to move. This pawn protected sufficiently twice, so the queen had to dodge. And now one idea could be a knight check, hitting the king, hitting the rook. This is a fork, and I guess this would lead to a capture and a sacrifice by white. And now a quick count shows that white is actually down a rook for just a knight and pawn. But this is still unclear because white's pawns are so strong on this left side, and I'm not so sure I want to go for this with black. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but more importantly, this knight is just so strong. This pawn is so strong. Maybe they're worth more than a rook. So Prag, if he just wants to be greedy, he'll jump in. But if he wants more, maybe he could, for example, bring his bishop out. He could think about starting to push this pawn forward, dislodging the white bishop. So many options for him.
Yeah, I love the idea of dislodging the bishop, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I would... I don't think I would grab the rook, like as you indicated. I just think it's just too dangerous, too double-edged. Like this
You lose all the quality from your position if you get greedy and give up your black knight.
Yeah.
And
this way you can establish a new chain, right?
Yeah. This bishop is actually trapped apart from one square. It has to move forward, attacking the black rook. But maybe Prag can just be really kind of go for the aesthetic, go for the beauty prize and push his pawn forward. And yeah, pawn chains. This one is definitely stronger than white's selection over here now. And yes, you give up some material. Okay, he has gone for the materialistic option, but I was going to say, yes, you give up the black rook, but here you can take the knight, or you can even maybe take the queen, take with the queen and try to slide over to deliver a nasty attack again. But okay, Prag didn't go for this kind of flashy continuation. Maybe there was a flaw to it. Instead, he chooses the simple approach. He takes the rook, and now he is ahead. Remember, a rook for white, pawn and knight. So still an advantage materially for Prag, but a long way to go to convert it.
Okay. You told me, do not get too excited with the bar in this game. It will probably swing.
It will swing a lot
Back
still,
and forth.
I'm pretty sure.
All right. Well, Richard Report is currently playing against Liam Le. Richard Report is, before this round, outside top 8. But Ty informs me that with a win, Richard Report is ready for the quarterfinals. He needs to win this game, but he will be ready for quarterfinals no matter what happens in this game.
Yeah, I'm just looking over the Richard Report game. It's so hard to evaluate.
Yeah.
The evaluation bar is in the middle, but that means nothing. It's still super sharp. And
So
Report,
he has winning chances.
he has winning chances, but
Okay.
it's not going to be easy.
Now, look at the bar in the game between Vedic and Magnus. It's over to Vedic's side.
Ooh, okay. I've got to take a peek over just to update you guys. And okay, this one still very tense. Vedic has no, he doesn't have an extra pawn. It's just in the balance, I think.
Okay, yeah, and the bar did go back.
Yeah.
So, okay, so much drama.
Intense round.
Keep everyone updated as the results come in, as the blunders happen. And, okay, meanwhile, whoa, Prag going aggressive with his pawns. We mentioned this was available earlier, this option, but now it feels a bit looser. Now the black knight's gone, the black king is a bit airy. Ooh, that one, instinct-wise, I'm not so keen on it, but maybe concretely it works. Maybe there's just no immediate flaw, because I think Prag has the same idea. Once that bishop moves, the black pawn is going to advance, the black e-pawn, and he's just going to try and steamroller David Anton in the centre.
Yeah, it is very, very, very concrete thinking, as you say, because, you know, the bishop moves, then the black rook can move forward, and black has it in his pocket to actually push this pawn in the centre whenever, and white can't even get very fancy, you know, by attacking the queen, because then that just improves the placing of the queen. She goes to where she wants to be. So
I show this, Ivanka, because there's a few moves there. We're expecting the white bishop to move, and why not gain a bit of time while you move, attacking the black rook. And you mentioned moving the black rook, and then if white attacks the queen improves, right? It just steps out, and still some issues with this bishop. But at least here, white would be able to maybe step to a central square. I think Prag's idea is maybe similar to what we showed a few moves ago.
give it up.
Maybe just give up this rook and just push a pawn forward. And the thing is, there's no real time to go and capture this black rook, because you don't flick in this. You actually play what we call a Zwischenzug, an in-between move, and you capture the white knight instead, attacking the white queen, and only next move, once white deals with this threat, for example, taking with the pawn, now you capture the white bishop. And quick count shows a bishop for 2 pawns. It's still actually quite unclear, but I would prefer the pieces here. I think black's bishops are going to become strong later. So Prag, I think he might even pre-move. No matter where the bishop goes, he wants to push this pawn. And, okay, we have this position. Is he... Okay, he goes for your option.
yeah, but
The
I don't
safer
like
approach.
it now. You know, once I saw it physically, this is a funny thing, you know, once I see it physically on a board, I'm like, that doesn't quite appeal to me. But whereas you see it in your head, you're like, okay, that's a move. But he played that very, very quickly, and your move was so much better.
I mean, it's tempting at least. Maybe he was just worried about the clock situation. He wanted to be practical, no more risk-taking. He's got extra material, so he's done kind of half the hard work. But now, at least, as mentioned, the bishop can escape. He doesn't really want to go back this way. It looks a bit wrong. So why not just slide across with the rook and just drop the bishop back? And I still probably would prefer black, but at least white now has a really strong bishop and potential with these pawns later on. Okay, and there we go. As expected, the rook hits the black queen, and the queen is definitely going to dodge, I think, to this square.
Yep.
And, yep, here we go. The white bishop, it could be protected maybe, or it could just drop back. It's still really, despite the material imbalance here, despite still some crazy stuff happening, it's still anyone's game.
Yeah, no, definitely. Still crazy because of this pawn structure. And white still, we have to remind everyone, still has those 2 passed pawns.
Okay, and, oh, sorry, I just changed game. You see my analysis board there. I was just checking in on Richard Rapport. This is their position. Black's actually doing very well because of these pawns. But let's go back to the game we're looking at. And let's go back to the players.
Ooh, this is intense. 2 minutes left on the clock for Pragnananda, and just under 3 minutes now for David Anton. I'm just so curious if these two are paying attention to the other games and results. All games lasting very longer, except from Duda Ding. That was a quick draw to secure both of their spots.
They don't have time.
Yeah,
they only
true.
have 2.5 minutes.
That's a good point.
They should not be wasting that time looking at what other people are doing. They need to be focused on this incredibly sharp position.
They
where
have
one
looked super focused,
Yeah,
to be fair.
and also looks quite tense just from their body language. Both of them seem to be a little bit nervous, twiddling their hair.
Yeah, actually, I noticed when a few months ago at the Grand Swiss, when I played Prag, just before move 40, I mean, it was a really complicated game. It wasn't clear who was better, but just before move 40, he started twiddling with his hand. I realised, actually, maybe I was doing quite well. So maybe that's a sign of nerves, just a nervous tick, playing with the hair. And, OK, meanwhile, a couple of moves, black bringing his bishop out and white's queen sliding across, kind of keeping an eye on the centre from the diagonal, but also maybe supporting the advance of her pawns. It feels a bit superficial, though, the queen on this square.
And I just clicked into so on Chess24, houska.com. You can check out many streams. There's streams in many different languages, and I just figured I wanted to check out the Spanish stream where Pepe Cuenca, who always gets so excited, is commentating on this game, of course, following their Spanish hope, David Anton. I bet they are feeling nervous now if he's going to qualify. Yes.
Shout out to our Spanish-speaking friends.
Definitely.
And for the Spaniards, there is a threat to deal with. This white rook at the bottom of the board is attacked by black's bishop. And, of course, David Anton spots it, just lifts his rook up one square. And now it might be time for this black rook on the top of the board on the left side to just slide across. Still, I mean, yes, the evaluation bar likes black. I think that's just to do with black's material advantage. The rook versus knight and pawn is a 1-point advantage, and that's reflected in the bar. But, yeah, still very hard to push this one further for Prag. Anything he does involves pros and cons, drawbacks, definitely.
Yeah. But your move, just moving the rook towards the open line, getting ready to challenge the bishop makes perfect sense. And it's no risk. But this move is a bit mysterious.
Okay. That shows he's really worried about white's pawns, but it didn't look like they were going anywhere, immediately at least. And, the evaluation bar reacts. He's slowing down the advance of white's pawns, but his black pawn now may be more of a weakness than it previously was. So, as we mentioned, some advantages to that move, some real drawbacks. For example, that pawn is on a light square, could get targeted by white's bishop later on. Also, it costs a really valuable move. You could use that move to improve a piece, to push your own pawns.
And can white use that extra move? For instance, I was going to suggest pushing Harry.
Yeah. When in doubt, that's the motto, right?
That is the rule, right? But David Anton just moves his queen.
I definitely feel that the time trouble nerves are already coming, because David Anton, he just improved the white queen, but is it even an improvement? It feels like he just wanted to pass the move back to Pragnananda. He didn't want to commit anything. I think he's struggling for a plan with white. And, black's rook does come across, as we advocated on the last turn. Very sensible, putting some serious pressure actually on white's bishop in the middle of the board, which is white's pride and joy, white's best piece, but only defended once, not defended by a pawn, so not quite anchored on any outpost. And also black has ideas at some point of sliding the other rook across, doubling up the two rooks on the d file. Two rooks are better than one, and that is actually a bit of a threat.
That is a huge threat. And how is white going to deal with that? Because ideally, white would like to, I was going to say, magically put a pawn on the h5 square and then try to... but now...
He only pushes Harry one square forward. You wanted it 2 squares, right?
I wanted it 2 squares because I'm not very subtle, I wanted to push the pawn 1 square all the way up to h5 and then...
But wouldn't that also be sensible? Because then it would be protected by the other pawn.
Yeah.
It would be protected.
Why only one?
I think he's just at a loss for a move to play. I mean, I don't think anything is really appealing to him, and the clock is ticking down.
And I think now is the moment for Pragnananda, after David Anton's played some really kind of hesitant moves, just to slide the rook across on the e-file, double up the 2 rooks against the white bishop. And I think that's going to cause some real headaches for David Anton. I think white's going to have to allow a rook trade. He's going to have to move his bishop out the way, but a trade of 1 set of rooks is going to help black. Remember, when you have a selection of pieces, when there's an imbalance, you want one of everything. It's like ice cream flavors, you want one of everything. And once you remove white's rook off the board, white loses a lot of control over the lines. White only plays with knights, and those can be kept an eye on. So I think this is an opportunity for Prag. He doesn't necessarily need to rush with this idea, but he's got to move quickly. Okay, he goes on the attack with his pawns. Oof.
I didn't expect that one. It is committable, because if it goes wrong, it's going to go seriously wrong.
Yeah, now black's position on this side feels a bit loose. That was not necessary. I think you should have rushed to trade things off while you had the opportunity. And, his idea was to create a square for the black king. He didn't feel comfortable with his king at the top of the board, understandably. So now the black king also protecting the black queen. So...
But wait, David, is there not some g4 ideas?
Yeah, definitely in the air. The black king in range of the white knights. Okay, this hasn't happened. Actually, yeah, maybe you're right, Jovanka. Maybe that was a serious opportunity for David Anton, but now after a trade, maybe still an opportunity, because there's still a knight jump. There's a huge threat in the position. White's knight wants to go to the middle of the board, to the d5 square. It will hit the black queen, it will hit the black rook, and even the black bishop. That's a big threat. It has to be dealt with, and Prag does. He controls this central square with his bishop. Yeah, I think he loosened his king too much. He should have pushed the black pawn just one square, just to control everything. He wanted to be aggressive, but that aggression might backfire. And look at this, a big, big threat again now for White. White wants to capture the f5 pawn, his bishop lining up against it.
There's no way to defend it, David.
Yeah, look at Prag suddenly leaning back.
It's gone
turning.
wrong.
It's turned. It was all to do with loosening his king's position, loosening those pawns. And he's had to give a pawn back. Another pawn. And now White will just capture this guy with a knight. That's a check on the f5 square. Knight on f5 will thrive. White has great pieces as well. Oof. I think he just delayed the right... This rook move was the right idea 5 moves ago. He just... Right idea, wrong timing.
He just got way over ambitious. He needed to play a little bit more classically. And I think his nerves.
Yeah.
He wanted to force things, and he's lost a pawn. But look at those 3 minor pieces that David Anton has. You know, they're just running riot all over those light squares.
Yeah, the knights, they can't be kicked away from their posts right now, especially the white knight in the middle, in front of that pawn. That white knight is rock solid, and Pragnananda just throwing pawns forward, giving up pawns. He wants to open up his bishops. I'm not so sure about that. I would have run away with the black king again. It feels too close to the white knights right now. So within checking distance. And, OK, what will David Anton do? Will he just retreat the white bishop? Will he capture this black pawn in the centre?
He has to be a little bit careful with how he captures that pawn. I mean, he can't capture with a bishop because black might get crafty and capture a knight. Or does it work?
That's a lot of calculation.
It's a lot of calculation.
It would be OK, but, yeah, David Anton, OK, he decides to take the safety first option, dropping back his bishop. So reinstating this threat of the white knight going to that magical f5 square that we talk about so much. That would be a devastating fork check and hitting the black rook in the middle. But this is the thing, the evaluation bar, we predicted it right from the opening. It's just a crazy position, and it has been for the whole game. And it will continue to swing. It's just that...
And he has 10 seconds, under 10 seconds, OK, and he takes your advice and he puts his king in the corner on a dark square. This is great.
Especially when low on time, you want your king as far away from your opponent's knights as possible. I wouldn't have gone to the corner, I would have gone the other way, but at least he doesn't have to worry about checks.
But a new threat has emerged, and that is he's retreated the bishop to attack the pawn. How are you going to defend that pawn?
8 seconds left.
And David Anton is actually very fast. I've played him at Blitz a few times. He's very quick. Prag, of course, good too, but yeah, with this time of disadvantage, 18 against 50 seconds, it could come into play. At least Black has ideas now of bringing the Black Queen all the way into the bottom left corner and checking the White King on the first rank.
Can White get greedy and grab that pawn on a6?
I think David Anton wishes he had more time to work that out, and it's very brave to bring the White Bishop away offside to go and capture a pawn. But if it's possible, it's probably just a very good move. OK, now clock's balancing out.
OK, safety first from David Anton. So maybe now he's threatening knight takes pawn.
In the centre, possibly, that black central pawn weak. Now, look at this, Pragnananda, no fear. When in doubt, push Harry the h-pawn. And he's actually got a specific idea. He wants to push that pawn even further and open up the dark square diagonal for his bishop. But it does come at the cost of a pawn, as Ivanka mentioned. This pawn was hanging. And...
OK, Pragnananda just has to centralise the queen. Doesn't really matter, e5 or d4. It's moved to e5.
This white knight in the centre might be protected by a bishop.
And David Navarra, 3 points for him. That's taking him to 21 points. Same as these two guys. So with a loss here for either of these two, they're not safe.
OK.
Ty mentioned Navarra has a better tiebreak maybe than these two. So very, very important game. He's going to be watching this game now, David Navarra.
And Pragnananda, making that move with 6 minutes, 6 seconds to spare.
He wishes it was 6 minutes. And now, queen trade offered. Is this going to benefit White? White has a lot of pawns. White has a knight and 3 pawns for Black's rook. So White's actually ahead on material. Can the Black rook gobble up the White pawns, especially on that left side, before it's too late? Pragnananda, he's in trouble.
He's in huge trouble. I mean, it's all just gone terribly wrong for him. The problem is that if he tries to get greedy and grab some pawns on the left, the white knight is ideally placed to defend those pawns.
And there we go. Pawn hunting, David Anton. He's going for black's remaining lone soldier on this left side. And, OK, Prag doing the same, trying to use his rook to attack. But you can step this pawn forward, you can jump forward with the knight. Lots and lots of options. And 2 connected pass pawns now for white. This is looking almost like a white win. Those 2 pawns super strong.
OK, would you grab what would you do here as black? Would you go bishop takes pawn and just hope for the best? Black
can go and take this white pawn on the g3 square, because actually, if white recaptures, the black rook can take the white knight in the middle. But, I don't know. I feel like those 2 white pawns on the left are just going to fly forward if the black bishop disappears. So I think it's a good idea, practical terms, centralizing the black king. If the black king can pick itself up and put itself near those white pawns, then maybe you get to safety. But that black king's still a mile away. And, OK, Pragnananda rocking back and forth. He knows he needs some magic now. He needs a miracle to save this game, because white's pawns are so close. Those white pawns will cost black a bishop, most likely, maybe even more.
Yeah, and here comes Charlie. And all Charlie needs is the assistance of some pieces to move forward.
Yeah, OK, the white king comes in.
I didn't expect that one. I thought the bishop would maneuver itself round, but no, OK, I like this.
Yeah, unfortunately for black, white just controls all of the light squares, and you can only fight on the dark squares, but there's nothing on those on that color complex. So OK, the black king comes across, and your idea now, Jovanka, look at this bishop. It cuts off the black king's kind of route towards the white pawns, and it's going to take a step back, defend the remaining pawns, and just kind of those 2 pawns together, going to hold each other's hand and walk down the board. OK, sneaky there from Pragnananda attacking the white knight, but this move, defending the knight, attacking the black bishop, multi-purpose. From David Anton, it's... I know the evaluation bar is not 100% sure whether it's winning, but it does look that way. The momentum is all on white side.
Wow, and now with Navarro's win, 21 points, Richard Report has played a draw, 21 points, then a draw, 22 points. I mean, would probably secure the place for these 2. And now it's not looking too good for Pragnananda.
No, and David Anton, there's no reason for him to take a draw, because he's got no risk here. Even if white loses those 2 pawns on the left, it's probably still fine. It's probably still a draw. White tonight is just too strong. So David Anton playing risk-free chess, going for the win. And Prag here, he is the one on the back foot. But OK, he's looking away. Does he think he's saving this now? Next move, no matter where the white king goes, black is going to go back where he came from, attacking the white knight and attacking the pawn next to it. So, Pragnananda, good fighter.
He is definitely a good fighter. I mean, he's shown that throughout the tour. He's got a lot of grit and resilience. And even in these kind of quite hopeless positions, he's still finding opportunities to fight.
And I think just some calculation needs to be done here, but...
Would you step forward with the king, or would you just step back?
Step back, yeah. And now, once the black rook retreats, attacking the white knight, there's literally nothing else black can do, because the white pawns are advancing. The big question is, can white advance the b pawn right now to try and make a new queen? Just give up the white knight, but just bank everything on these 2 white pawns. And he doesn't do this. He's repeating the position. OK, surprising. So black can give another check here, and that's the 2nd time we'll have seen that position.
He has seen the other results.
Maybe he's just playing safe now, David Anton. He did take a while there. I'm not sure whether he looked over at the other games or the other results.
But there's no need.
There's no need. OK, he plays for the win, though. He's going for the win. He's not taking the draw going forward. But the black rook can, again, start attacking this white knight. And it's not so easy, the win, anymore. The black king, once it moves, suddenly the black rook has got an eye on both of white's pawns, and you can't save them both. Oof. OK, I mean, it feels like white should be winning still, because there are just so many pawns. White's pieces all so active, well-coordinated.
Maybe he's just going to switch tack, you know. After the king moves, he's going to go, well, actually, I'm going to grab your pawn. And say, yes, you know, you want those 2 pawns on the left. But, you know, like a hydra, a new head emerges.
OK, a bit of an odd choice of square there from Pragnananda, going to a light square.
Light square doesn't quite make sense, does it? But if I were him, I would just play it easy. King take the pawn.
I must say, I was at the World Blitz Championship in Poland, and David Anton failed to win a position where he had 3 extra pawns on one side of the board against Anish Giri. So he's got nervous in this type of position before, but OK, wow, he's going all out on the advance with this king. The black king using itself as a blockader for white's pawns now. Interesting. Prag finding resources. Okay, so it might be time for your idea, Jovanka. Just grab all of black's remaining pawns, get those off the board, remove any remaining risk.
Yeah. 25 seconds to make a decision. Yeah, I remember the game. It was when he was 3 pawns up, right? And he got checkmated, or was... or that was someone else.
It was a draw in the end, but yeah, either way, he failed to win.
Okay, he's been grabbing some pawns with the king. This is good stuff.
Okay, so if he continues grabbing pawns with the white king, he'll have 4... There we go. White has 4 pawns against black's 0, but black has the rook versus knight advantage, so can Pragnananda hold? He needs a miracle still. He needs to somehow eliminate all of white's remaining pawns.
And according to Tai, if Anton wins, and also Vedit, look at the bar, in Vedit's game against Magnus Carlsen, if they win, Prag will be out, unfortunately.
Okay,
he needs a draw.
Yeah, Vedit looks like he is winning against Magnus. Still some hard work to be done, though, in that one. So, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, is Vedit hoping that Prag can help him out, or is it the other way around? But it looks like they're in a direct
Check out this
competition.
ending. So there's a possibility now that black can actually play bishop takes... No, it's not possible.
Yeah,
I was going to not possible bishop takes pawn because of knight takes bishop. But okay, the bishop can step back.
Yeah.
Give a check. Okay, Pragnanda moves his king towards the action.
No good way for the black bishop to run and kind of open up a discovered attack against white's bishop. So it makes some sense to put your king in front of white's pawns. There might be stalemate ideas, or the king might act as a blockader while the rest of the pieces harass white. And okay, look at those 3 pawns though, those 3 foot soldiers. I mean, those were 2 scary pawns on the left side a few minutes ago. Now white has replaced them with 3 scary connected pawns.
Okay, and I'm expecting the corner pawn, Harry, to move forward. Okay.
In practical terms, you nearly never save a position like this. There's just no way. You need to somehow give up your bishop for all of white's remaining pawns. But it's not going to happen. Only 1 or 2 of the pawns will sit on dark squares.
But the bar in the Vedit Carlsen game just, I think, actually went over slightly to Magnus' side. Well, at least in the middle.
It's actually a dead draw now. Magnus found a way to trick Vedit, and he's actually removing Vidit's final pawn. It's going to come down to king and knight versus king, which is a draw. No checkmating material left.
So that means Vedit is out, and that means Pragnananda's chances are growing again.
Okay.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
He won't know this, but he's still fighting like a lion in this game to save things and try to increase his chances. Okay, this white pawn advancing. I was going to say as well, the other scenario is if white's pawns all disappear at the cost of black's rook and bishop, the position, if it's just king versus a king, bishop and knight, that is a win. That is a checkmate. And I think David Anton will know how to win that one.
Yeah.
It's not easy, actually. Lots of top grandmasters have failed to win that, but it's a theoretical endgame. And okay, a knight check. If this knight is removed, yes, black can win a pawn in the process, but white's king will be too active. White's g pawn will run forward, and that's just game over. Prag needs to keep the pieces on the board. Actually, he's got the outline of a stalemate, at least. So he needs to somehow, if this position, black could give up his rook and give up his bishop, it's stalemate. But the problem is giving up a bishop is the hardest thing in chess. Your opponent doesn't necessarily need to take it. And, okay.
Well,
he's found a trick.
He's found a trick, so there's a very nice idea. We've got to show it, right?
We have to show this because right now Prag is relying on one trick to save the game, and that is stalemate. His king cannot move in the corner, and it cannot be checked. Okay, David Anton dodging the trick. If he pushed his pawn forward, we would have said bishop takes pawn, sacrificing the bishop. And once the king takes it, rook takes bishop, sacrificing the rook as well. And look at this. This is stalemate. It's not check, and black cannot move anything. So this is a recurring theme that will arise the rest of the game. And okay,
unfortunately, the king is in the corner. We've got to go back.
Yeah, we've got to go back because white brought the knight back. And okay, checkmate is threatened now. It's just game over, unfortunately, I think, for Prag. Look, he leans back. The white knight can jump in at some point. There's no rush, actually, with that move. And the black king trapped.
And
yeah, still one last trick in the position. After white recaptures, black can take this white pawn. And again, capturing this bishop is stalemate, but white will not take the bait. It's not going to be a draw because this pawn steps forward, and now black's bishop can't sacrifice itself in the right way. If you take this pawn now, white's king steps back, giving black's king some breathing space. No stalemate. And 2 connected pass pawns are a win in this position.
And Ty's telling me that's going to mean David Anton is through and David Navarra is through. Pragnananda will be out with that loss.
Yeah, and unfortunately no hope. White simply has one plan in mind, and it's unstoppable. The bishop will move out the way, the white king will move, and white's pawns will trap the black king. Yeah, so close.
I know.
So close.
Heartbreaking.
On a
Real
tiebreak as
turn
well.
of events as well.
He was actually bossing this game for a large chunk of it, Pragnananda. He just weakened his king at the wrong moment. And look at this, white's pawn is simply going to step forward 2 squares, and that's going to be checkmate. And also David Anton, that's really instructive. He's given black's king one square to breathe, so no stalemates.
There's still one chance. One chance. If you take away the h7 square from the king, well, then the black bishop can sacrifice itself.
Yeah, so, of course, David Anton, he's already seen the stalemate threat, or the stalemate kind of motif. We saw that earlier, and now the white king's just going to... Actually, I think maybe pushing both pawns would have been a mistake there. But the king, stepping across, and plus 100 means checkmate is coming. No way to prevent it. There's just one trick left. If white's g-pawn pushes, black can sacrifice the bishop, so white's bishop goes away. No more stalemates. And Pragnananda, is he about to resign? I think he's giving up, and then his chances have gone. David Anton, really nice endgame technique. We've got to give credit to the Spaniard. But in a few seconds, we will see a result.
This is almost a little bit heartbreaking. He was 1 win away from qualifying to the knockout stage in the Air Things Masters. Pragnananda. And now it's going to be basically down to tiebreaks, knocking him out of this tournament. Oh, after such an incredible performance, and look at that, 100 on the bar, and it's over. David Anton makes it through to the quarterfinals. It ends here for Pragnananda. Oh, after such an incredible performance, you got to feel for young Pragnananda right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he was so close, and as David said earlier and in the game, he was just totally in command. But then, you know, he played a few careless moves, and then the advantage slipped, and it all just went downhill from there. And that is the worst kind of heartbreak in chess.
Yeah. Now, let's take a look at this game. I mean, it was swinging back and forth.
Yeah, I kind of just want to show the final moments in order to firstly show why Pragnananda resigned, but also how David Anton won. We talked about stalemate quite a lot. We need to show it on the board once. And there were actually a lot of tricks. Credit to Pragnananda for finding the tricks, keeping fighting, but it was just this one moment. If white had pushed forward with a pawn, it looks winning, because white's about to check and make a new queen, then black would have actually drawn the game. Pragnananda would have saved it, would have qualified for the knockouts by taking this pawn off. And suddenly, this is not possible anymore. The black bishop will just capture. But after king takes bishop, it's stalemate. Black's king cannot move. The white bishop actually covers its escape square. The pawn covers its other escape square. And this would be a draw. But David Anton, of course, he had spotted this trick. And he just removed his bishop from the guard of this square. And as we saw, once the black bishop moved, pawn forward, won the game. After bishop takes pawn, it's no longer stalemate. The black king has to move, and once it does, this is a check, and white makes a new queen. Brutal in the end. Chess is so harsh sometimes, but endgame technique, that is where it decided this game.
And we're joined by Magnus Carlsen. He is finishing in second place here. And Magnus, how are you feeling now about being done with the preliminaries, being ready for knockouts?
Yeah, it's fine. I think today I didn't play so well, but overall the performance is quite good, and I just think Liam was stronger this time in the preliminaries. So I think I should be reasonably satisfied with the score, and then we'll see who I play.
Yeah. Liam Le, he's played many events now in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. What can you say about his performance? He didn't do too good in the start of the tour, but now he's just crushing it.
Yeah, that's true. I think he has a style that's suited pretty well for rapid chess. He's solid, very, very sound, and has a pretty has a pretty good technique as well. So I think that works well. And that's why he's doing well now. He's always been very good at faster time controls as well as, of course, being a very decent 2700 player in classical.
And we're trying to calculate who you're going to face in the quarterfinals, Magnus. Either Duda, Ding, or Niemann, who will probably also be on 23 points. Any preferences?
Yeah, it's usual. Anybody not named Ding would be nice, but I'll play whomever I'll play.
All right. And Magnus, what has been the highlight for you in the preliminaries? What have you been the most happy about with your play?
Let me see. I think I did play some reasonable games. Game with Rapport was okay, I guess. And then I'm rarely very happy with any of my games, but they were reasonable. But I mean, clearly the highlight of the preliminaries is Liam's performance, not mine.
Yeah. And I do know, as you mentioned, you do appreciate the beauty on the board and fantastic chess playing. We did follow Pragnananda's game earlier against Jordan van Forest. David actually called it one of the most beautiful games he had seen. He called a few of Pragnananda's moves simply genius. Have you seen that game, and what did you think, if so?
No, I didn't see it so far, but I'll be taking a look at it for sure.
Cool. And now, knockout stage. Is it nice to shift the format and the tempo a little bit to start with knockout stage tomorrow?
No, sure. When you play these tournaments, that's always the goal, to reach there relatively unharmed, and that's where the fun really starts.
Cool. Looking forward to it, Magnus. Thank you for joining us, and best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. I bet Magnus is going to go straight in and check out Pragnananda's game then.
Yeah, I hope so, because he might feel inspired. And I'm going to take a look at that one in more detail later as well. Great game. And it's nice to see Magnus so relaxed, actually. The main thing for him was qualifying through the prelims and in the knockouts, as we've seen before, as we saw last month in the Earthings Masters. This is where he really starts motoring.
And we're joined also by another player, Erik Hanson, who unfortunately is knocked out. It was just brutal looking at game 14. Erik, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had a very small chance heading into today to catch up on the leaderboard. I had to win every single game. But round 13, I played one of my better games against Vedic. And so I started feeling a little confident heading into game 14 that there was a chance, and played a really good game against Duda as well. And then I found a way to trap my queen. I mean, going over it, it's very hard to get your queen trapped like that, and I managed to find a way. So it's pretty heartbreaking, but I don't think I really played well enough throughout the 4 days to give myself a good chance to qualify. Like, I don't think I really deserved it. Just wasn't sharp in some of the critical moments.
I would disagree, though. But it was just intense, those final seconds of that game. And can you describe sort of the emotions you're going through in those final seconds and realizing the blunder, and also after that?
I mean, I had maybe 10, 20 seconds because I was playing on increment, and it's just not really a pattern that's too common. It's just, oh, he's attacking my queen, and then it just immediately it's like, wait, there's no moves, and there's just nothing there. So it's just a huge swing from a very controlled winning position, and then finding yourself with a queen trapped, and that's the only way to lose the position. Maybe it's a bit of karma, because the game I won against Navarra, I was dead a million different ways, and I won that one. So, but it happened a couple of times this event where I struggled. I was getting time trouble, and I messed up some winning positions against Jordan. It was kind of similar. I had the winning queen endgame, and managed to mess that up. So some technique issues and time trouble issues that cost me a couple points here and there, and that maybe made a big difference in the long run.
Chess is brutal, no doubt about it. Now, you played also in the Everything's Masters, of course, and this one. What does this experience against these top players mean to you?
I think just consistent experience playing against these players is just going to be really good in the long run if I have the opportunity to play more of these. Definitely, I'm building some confidence, even though this result wasn't great on paper. I did score a win every single day and didn't really have too many sequences where I lost, 2-3 games in a row and went on tilt, which happened last year. Last year when I played for the very first time in the tour, I went on tilt and I just couldn't stabilize myself. Today, this event, every day I scored 1.5 points. Could have been a little bit better, but at least I was putting up wins and building a bit of confidence there, because sometimes this field is, there's no easy points, so it's very easy to get upset at yourself and just tilt, get frustrated, and you see that sometimes where players have a really good day followed by a really bad day. And at least in this event, even though it wasn't a great result, I did stabilize a bit after losses, and I hope moving forward I just play better, but at least for psychologically, I'm not too worried.
Now, Eric, of course, we love chess, but this tournament has been particularly special, being the Charity Cup, doing a fundraiser for UNICEF and the people inside Ukraine and the people now becoming refugees. I am being told that you're actually donating all of your prize money in this tournament to UNICEF. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, before the event, when the organizers mentioned what the format is, I figured it'd be a good time to contribute in my own way. I would have hoped to score more points or make it to the knockout, because it was 100% of whatever I scored. So I think in the end, $4,000, I think I won. So not bad. I would have liked to have done better for the charity, but I think it's a good initiative. And if I can do my part, with some exciting chess, even with the blunders, then I'm happy that where it's headed. So, yeah, I hope other people. I didn't get to follow the broadcast too much every single day, but I know you guys are running a UNICEF charity and fundraiser, and I hope manage to inspire a few other players or viewers to contribute as well, because it is a pretty important time for that.
Absolutely. That money is going to be so helpful, life-saving to people inside Ukraine. So thank you so much, Eric, and thank you also for the entertainment you're giving us. We hope to see you soon back in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour.
Yeah, I definitely hope to be back and keep up the good work with the tour and everything. It's been a lot of fun playing, and now I'm just going to jump on the couch and be a spectator for the next few days.
Enjoy that, Eric, and thank you so much again for your contributions.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to us. Wow, I hope you guys are feeling inspired by that. Eric Hanson donating all of his money to UNICEF. Unfortunately, though, he is knocked out of the tournament. But someone who is ready for quarterfinals, David Navarra, after an intense final day. Congratulations on being in the quarterfinals.
Thank you very much. Hi. Welcome, everybody. I was lucky in quite some games, but on the other hand, I missed quite some opportunities as well. I hope that the spectators liked my games, because there were many mistakes, but many things happening, except for maybe one game.
Well, it's going to be, in your first event, being ready for knockout stage in the Strong Tournament, what does that mean to you?
Okay, I am surprised that I eventually qualified, but okay, I will try to do my best in the knockout phase.
And you're going to face Liam Le in the quarterfinals. Do you have any experience with him?
Yes, I lost several games to him and also won one rapid and one blitz game, I think. So we will see. It will be an interesting match. Of course, a difficult opponent, but okay, we will see. We will be in better form tomorrow.
All right. Well, David, what's going to be your tactics? I mean, the format is shifting when we head into knockout stage with matches. What's going to be your tactics now?
I will keep it a secret. So far, I don't even know. Okay, so I don't need to pretend anything. I will look at it tomorrow. My tactics will be to take rest now and then decide what to do.
Sounds like a good plan. We hope you get a very good night's sleep, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Best of luck in quarterfinals.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening or whatever time of the day.
Yep, evening is correct. Thank you so much. All right, well, this game is still going on, you guys. Jürgen van Forest against Hans Niemann. Both players are already qualified for the quarterfinals, but it definitely depends for Hans Niemann who he's going to face and what place he'll have. What's the situation? 136 moves.
Exactly the same number of moves as Game 6 from the World Championship.
Yes.
But yeah, it's that infamous endgame again. Rook and Bishop against Rook. We've seen it a few times on the tour last season and last month as well in the Athens Masters. And this position is objectively a draw. We see in the evaluation bar, yes, the computer favours White because White has an extra Bishop, but Rook and Bishop versus Rook is a well-known draw. Problem is, in practical terms, when you only have a couple of minutes on your clock, it's so hard to defend. Even the top grandmasters in the world, they study this exact endgame once every year, once every few months, just to make sure that they remember all of the techniques, because it's not easy at all. And I was just rewinding. The last capture happened on move 108. So if we make it to move 158, the game is declared a draw. Jovanka, what do you think? Will Hans hold it?
No, I think he won't, because the trend has been that his king has been slowly being pushed back. He was in the middle of the board, and now suddenly it's right on the edge, which is right in the danger zone. So I'm thinking, no. I think the trend is saying that it will be basically, it's too dangerous. I think it's too dangerous, and also too little time on the clock for Hans to hold it in the accurate way. I'm just trying to get this up on the shredder table base to see when is the moment that Black is in trouble. And just bear with me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think Black is in trouble right now. Well, unfortunately for Jordan fans. As long as he has this formation with his king and his rook. Ooh, this last move, though. He's allowed a nasty check with the white rook. I'm not so sure now. Because, yeah, there we go. We have seen the big mistake. You cannot allow a check, and you cannot allow your king to be forced back to the centre. Where Black's rook previously stood on the c-file, it was stopping any checks from the front with White. And note how Black's king wanted to run away to the corner, but if it had done, the white rook would have actually stepped back, attacking the black rook. It would have been a discovered check. And now Jordan, you can see on the camera, he knows he is winning. The problem is, Black's king is stuck. Black's king is completely frozen. There's actually a checkmate threat immediately. White's bishop was going to go and check and force the black king to a light square. But this is the problem. There's no way to continue the checks. You forced the white bishop back, but now the white rook is going to do the rest of the work. And Jordan looking up to the sky, that is because he studied this exact idea before, this exact concept. And look at this. He threatens checkmate now by going up to the top of the board. Hans laughing, meanwhile, maybe surprised and annoyed at himself for losing this one, but he's brought his rook across, threatening checkmate at the top of the board on the 8th rank. If the king slides away and tries to run away from the white king, then the white rook goes back to the other side of the board, to the b4 square, and it's going to be checkmate on b8 or h8, the two dark squares protected by white's bishop in the centre. Black's rook, meanwhile, looks on, just helplessly unable to come to the aid of its king. Jovanka, you mentioned it. It's such a hard endgame to defend, especially when your king's stuck on the back rank. And look at this, the rook comes across, it's threatening checkmate in 1 on the b8 square, protected by its bishop, and that costs Black the rook. It also costs Hans the game. There we go. Result, Van Forest wins after that marathon battle.
Wow, 142 moves, and eventually, though, this is over. A loss for Hans Niemann, but he is still qualified for the knockout stage, and he's going to face Magnus Carlsen in the quarterfinals. But now we're joined by, soon we're joined by David Anton, who did clinch that spot after winning against Pragnananda. Okay, well, this game, crazy. Let's not go through all of the 142 moves.
That's a pity. No, I just want to show maybe the one moment where he let it slip. And actually, Hans, at the end, when he resigned, he was only 16 moves away from making the 50-move rule, from making the draw. But it was this position, and this is why we study endgames at home, guys. Go to Chessable, for example, check out the endgame course. 100 endgames you must know. This features. Check out the endgame touch with Magnus. And, OK, it was here. Black's rook is needed to guard this square. And if he knew his endgames, Hans would have kept this formation, kept this blockade. He would have just waited with the black rook and maybe even come back just to pin and annoy the white bishop. This is a draw as long as you control this checking square. The problem is he didn't do this. He moved his rook back where it came from, allowing a check, maybe forgetting that after the king runs, there's a discover check, hitting the king, winning the rook on the next turn. And once his king, as we saw, got trapped in the middle of the board, that was the end. The white rook took a step back to be flexible. And again, the white bishop blocking any checks. Checkmate now inevitable, either on this square, trapping the black king, or in the game, as we saw, on this square, trapping the black king. This is the hardest endgame in chess, so go and study it, everyone at home.
So impressive stuff by Jordan van Forest. Now we're joined by Hans Niemann. A bad ending to the day, but you are through to knockouts. Congratulations.
Well, yeah, thank you. But today I was torturing quite a bit. Being tortured. Prague was torturing me. Jordan was torturing me. So this was, it was never-ending torture. But I'm, I guess, into the top 8, so I should be happy about that.
Yeah, building up points before this day. So you are definitely ready for quarterfinals to face. Do you know who you're going to face?
Magnus, I think.
Yeah, that's true. What is that going to be like?
Well, I think obviously the opportunity to play him in a match will be great. I think that 8-year-old me would be very proud to be reaching this point in my career. So I'm just going to enjoy the match and fight and do my best.
Well, that sounds like the perfect plan. How many times have you played Magnus? Sort of, what kind of experiences do you have with him?
No positive ones yet. Both times we played were in the tour, but again, it's a 4-game match. I'll just do my best to try to give him a good fight.
And of course, the Chessable course is coming out, I think it's in 2 days, on the Joe Bava London. Of course, you don't want to reveal anything here, but are you feeling confident with some openings going into the match with Magnus?
Yeah, feeling very confident. I definitely would like to stay in the tournament until my course is released, just so I can fully promote it and plug it at every single moment and interview. But again, I think Magnus is, of course, a very, very strong player. So it'll be a very difficult match. But it's the first time for me to have such an experience. So I'm definitely just very excited to have the opportunity.
And we're so happy for you. And we do love that you're always so confident. But being only 18 and being now ready for knockout in a big tournament and to face the world champion, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. I think if 1 year ago, I was a Harvard reject with no potential in life. And I think like a year ago, I was 25, maybe 20. I was barely a grandmaster. I had just got rejected from my dream school, you could say. So 1 year ago, things were looking pretty bleak. But to be at this moment, to play Magnus in a match and make it to the top 8, and this is definitely, in some cases, a dream come true. So obviously, I will just cherish the moment, because the fact that I'm even a professional chess player now is a complete miracle. It would have been so easy for me to be a professional streamer or go to college, but the fact that I've been given this opportunity to be a professional chess player, I'm very grateful for and will make the most of.
Such an inspiration. We wish you the best of luck, Hans. It's going to be super exciting to follow your match with Magnus tomorrow, so best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Wow, it's going to be a big moment for Hans Niemann to play against the world champion in a 4-game match tomorrow. One more player we need to talk to who is ready for the knockout stage, David Anton, after an intense final round. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So what was that final game against Prague like? And were you aware of all scenarios for qualifying?
I wasn't sure if a draw was enough, so I just played the game. It was just, the game was just a mess. I think everything could happen, but finally, I think I was a bit lucky and I won the game.
And how do you feel about your play here so far in the Charity Cup?
I think in general I played decent chess. Of course, it's always difficult to play against these players. They are very strong. So, yeah, in general, I'm very happy that I qualified. This is the first time I do it. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Cool. And I was trying to pay attention to the Spanish stream as well, where the famous Pepe Cuenca was commentating your game. Have you been on that stream to talk to them, and are they super excited?
Not yet, but they were telling me to join now. It's always nice to be with them. Yeah, the way they comment, it's very fun to watch, and it's always nice to be around them. So maybe I will join them right now after this call.
All right, I'll be very quick. Only one more question. You face Jan-Krzysztof Duda in the quarterfinals. So what will be your plan in that match?
I didn't have time to think about it. I think as usual, I will try to push in the openings. I think I'm maybe a bit better there. And yeah, if I can get a good position after the openings, I think I will have very good chances to win the match.
We wish you best of luck, David Anton, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. Wow, that was it for the preliminaries in the Charity Cup, you guys. It's been intense and exciting, and here are results from that final round. So many players were fighting to qualify. Eventually, that win for David Anton against Pragnananda became crucial. Pragnananda is knocked out, unfortunately. David Navarra also made it through with that win. Hans Niemann, even with that loss, is through. And Liam Le was able to get a draw against Richard Report to secure his spot as #1 in the preliminaries. Here are the final standings. Look at that, Liam Le, 32 points. Incredible performance in the preliminaries. Magnus Carlsen in a safe second. David Navarra clinching that final spot in the quarterfinals. Richard Report, Pragnananda, Vedic, they are knocked out of the tournament. Let's take a look at the quarterfinals coming up tomorrow. Look at that. Liam Le, David Navarra, David Anton, Jan-Krzysztof Duda. Jordan van Forest will have to deal with world #3, Ding Liren, and Magnus Carlsen against Hans Niemann. Okay, David, who are you looking the most forward to?
There's a lot of exciting pairings there, but it's got to be Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, against the up-and-coming Hans Niemann. Hans is full of confidence. We talked to him, and he could cause a surprise. He's that type of player. But yeah, all matchups, very exciting.
And with the way Jordan's been playing these two last days against Ding Liren, that could be interesting.
I know, and both of them have a very dynamic style as well, so I'm expecting full fireworks there.
Very cool. Looking forward to the quarterfinals. These are the 8 players left in the tournament. Let's also take a look at the tour standings with some people knocked out. Remember, this is the last chance to gain prize money to qualify for the major, which is the next tournament. And especially then, look at Eric Hanson, $11,750. He's going to donate all the money he made in this tournament to UNICEF, which is just fantastic. And he is currently inside top 8, but Hans Niemann and the players in the knockout will overtake him. And it's all about donations for UNICEF in this tournament, the Charity Cup. Let's take a look at where we're at right now with 4 days left in the tournament. Oh, wow! We've passed 70,000, you guys.
I know, I just saw it. Incredible.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to absolutely everyone. Ooh.
We're gonna have to up that goal, I think, even more than from 80,000. And also, we did have the auction today. Do you know what it eventually went for, David?
I did take a peek, and I'm very humbled. I'm very honored that someone would bid that much for a lesson with me.
$1,525. Someone made a bid that high for a fantastic chess lesson with Grandmaster David Howell, which is a great prize, but that money is also just so important in our fundraiser for UNICEF. So thank you to everyone who is participating. We're gonna keep it up tomorrow, raising money and watching great chess. Quarterfinals coming up tomorrow in the Charity Cup with some great encounters. It's gonna be fun, and we hope you guys will join us tomorrow as well. But for now, have a good night or day wherever you are in the world.